Amazing news! At Titans Debate League is now looking for interns. We are expanding our team and seeking driven individuals who are ready to make an impact. We're on the hunt for talented people to join our marketing team, and charismatic new hosts, and creative minds who can produce amazing content. If you have a positive attitude and are used to winning, because that's what we do here, then we want to hear from you. Join us and contribute to a culture of excellence and success here at Titans Debate League. Email us today, titansdebateleague@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Where Infinity Gauntlet is a mere toy compared to the intellectual prowess build and destroy the cipher. Intellectual sword to slice you, or whatever device you recommend. Surgical precise pen, hand get heated, the room will spin. If man get treated, them goals gon' spin. Level heads with feet, paradigm the box you in. Got a pair of red dimes in the box you in. Don't matter, paradigms, your clock won't spin. Hear the sounds of the trumpets, start the rounds in the gauntlet. Get down or lay down when we're stopping. It's the clash of the tigers. Hear the sounds of the trumpets, start the rounds in the gauntlet. Get down or lay down when we storming. It's the clash of the titans. Hear the sounds of the trumpets, start the rounds in the gauntlet. Get down or lay down when we storming. It's the clash of the titans. It's the clash of the titans.
The wool removed, you wolves I see. No dogs, no snakes, it's feathers on me. This time, let's start. Hey. They try to open their third eye with both eyes closed. Can't see the consequences to the things that they chose. Put they self in deeper sleep, claiming that they woke, while I'm watching time and nature moving through the smoke. I fell in love with wisdom. Sophia held my hand, told me comfort ain't real if it destroy another man. So I learned to love existence without controlling all the plans. Try to hold on to forever, still it slipped right through my hands. Tried everything to get it, still slipped through my hands. Then it's both of my kids. Only thing I truly love, my number one fans. And I still smile even when life get cold. Cause most things grow in the sunlight, but grow the most at night. That's something people don't know. For I might have moved different instead. Thought I found forever in somebody else's head, but she just wanted friendship while I was thinking marriage beds. So here I go again, talking about love again, trying to explain existence through the pain again, trying to hold beauty still, but time don't ever stand. That's when Father Time whispers, son, that's just the plan. And Mother Nature touched my shoulder, said nothing blooms forever, but everything returns eventually. That's when I finally understood why heartbreak make us wiser, why loneliness get deeper when your thoughts become advisors. People fear the dark, but the stars only shine there. Flowers drink the sunlight, but roots grow where the night live. That's why I stopped fearing pain and started reading signs there. Every scar another map showing me where life is. Time and nature had a face, I don't think they look old. Probably young forever, with eternal souls. Little kids with galaxies inside their pupils glowing gold, running through the universe, laughing while creation unfolds. Not gods on thrones, not witches casting spells, just the endless interaction that make existence itself. One gay sequence, one gay shape, and together they became every heartbeat, every ocean.
Imagine staring into a completely empty room.
Okay, I am picturing a totally blank, dark space.
Right. Now imagine trying to prove that the emptiness itself requires a structure.
I mean, that sounds like a complete riddle.
It really does. But if you push that specific thought experiment to its absolute limit, you run into what is probably the oldest, most intractable question in human history.
Which is, why is there something rather than nothing?
Exactly. Why is there something rather than nothing? And for millennia, the answers to that have generally fallen into two incredibly entrenched camps.
Yeah, the two heavyweights.
Right. So the first camp argues that a supernatural creator, a being operating entirely outside of space and time, just built reality from scratch.
And then the second camp argues that reality is just this accidental explosion of physical matter and random chance.
Yeah, and that any search for some deeper meaning is basically an illusion. End of story.
But the fascinating thing is that both of those camps, despite being these bitter historical rivals, they actually share a really similar unexamined assumption.
Which is
Well, they both treat the origin of the universe as a mechanical event. Like they're both looking for a first object.
the definitive starting line.
Exactly, a starting line.
Well, today we are jumping into a deep dive on a framework that claims the very concept of an absolute starting line, or even, nothingness itself, is actually just a linguistic illusion.
It's a massive claim.
It is.
Hmm.
On the desk today, we have a stack of philosophical materials. Specifically, we are looking at Quantum Onlyism, Book One, alongside a series of its foundational white papers.
And we really need to set the rules of engagement right off the bat here.
Yes, absolutely.
We are evaluating this strictly as a philosophical framework.
Right, because the authors are very clear that they are not presenting this as some kind of replacement for physics or chemistry or neuroscience.
Or any experimental science, right? They're attempting to map the logical floor that makes physics or chemistry intelligible in the first place.
And my role here is to kind of guide us through the claims, but your role today is really to bring the skepticism.
Oh, I will be bringing the skepticism. We are going to test its logic, hunt for tautologies, and really subject these claims to rigorous philosophical scrutiny.
Because we aren't assuming it's true, right?
No, and we aren't assuming it's false either. We are auditing the mechanism to see if it actually identifies the bedrock conditions of reality.
Or if it's just repurposing older metaphysical ideas and putting them in new clothing.
Exactly. Semantic repackaging is a huge risk here.
So to begin that audit, we really have to look at the specific problem this framework is actually trying to solve.
Right, because when you look at the history of metaphysics, almost every major system starts by proposing a first object.
They start with a noun,
Yes, a noun, like in the beginning was God,
or in the beginning was matter, or mind, or energy.
or a physical law, or some quantum fluctuation. It's this deeply ingrained human instinct to look for the builder of the house.
We want a substance to point to.
We do. But quantum onlyism essentially hits the pause button on that entire instinct.
It demands that we ask a prior question first.
Right, before you can propose a God or a fundamental particle, you have to answer something else.
Which is, what conditions must already obtain for any proposed fundamental entity to even exist?
Or persist, or act, or relate, or just be intelligible at all.
It's a pretty massive shift in perspective, honestly. Because instead of looking for the first piece of furniture in the room, it's asking what geometry is required for a room to exist in the first place.
That's a great way to put it. And this fundamentally changes how we approach the whole concept of creation.
Right, because traditional theological systems and even some cosmological ones rely heavily on creation ex nihilo,
Bringing something into existence from absolute nothingness.
or bringing it in from some transcendent zone that's quote unquote outside of existence.
But the sources we're reviewing argue that creation ex nihilo is actually highly unstable.
They go further than unstable, don't they? They call it logically incoherent.
They do, because describing nothing requires you to borrow concepts that actually only belong to something.
Okay, break that down for the listener. How does describing nothing require something?
Well, if you say, before the universe existed, there was nothing, you are borrowing the concept of time.
By using the word before.
Exactly. You're applying a temporal concept to a state where time supposedly doesn't exist.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a direct contradiction.
And you are also inevitably imagining this empty, dark expanse.
Oh, like a void.
Right, a void. But picturing a void smuggles in the concept of spatial constraint or nature.
So absolute nothingness isn't actually a state of affairs at all.
No, it's a semantic error. You literally cannot conceptualize it without illicitly using the conditions of existence to frame it.
Which means the traditional debate between theism and atheism is often just arguing over a totally flawed premise.
Exactly. The theist says God created the universe from nothing,
And the atheist says the universe emerged from nothing on its own.
but neither camp has adequately accounted for the nothing they are using as their baseline.
That makes a lot of sense. Furthermore, the whole creation model always triggers that dreaded infinite regress.
Oh yeah, the endless loop.
Right. If a creator built the universe, what built the creator?
And it's a loop that is usually only solved by putting this artificial protective fence around the creator.
Just declaring it off limits to further questioning.
Right, saying God is uncaused. But quantum onlyism rejects that protective fence.
Yeah.
They see it as a massive explanatory failure.
So instead of creation from nothing, the framework focuses heavily on formation,
Yes, formation as a phase transition.
which is the shift from an unobservable equilibrium into an observable structure.
The analogy they use a lot in the white papers is water forming into ice.
Okay, let's walk through that.
So the molecules of water don't get created out of the void when the temperature drops.
Right, they are already there.
Exactly. They simply reorganize. They form into a crystal lattice under the right environmental parameters.
And quantum onlyism scales this logic up to the universe itself.
They do. The universe wasn't created, it formed.
So even the Big Bang within this framework is modeled differently.
Right, it's not modeled as a beginning from absolute zero. It's a transition from an unobservable state of perfect symmetry into a measurable state of structured motion.
Okay, but if you're listening to this, you might be thinking right now that asking for conditions is just a semantic trick.
A sneaky way of asking for causes, like the Big Bang.
Exactly. Like, isn't a condition just physics by another name? Like the condition of high heat and density?
It's a crucial distinction. Blending the two is where most people really get lost in the weeds on this topic.
So how do we separate a scientific cause from a philosophical condition?
Think of a game of billiards.
Okay, I'm picturing a pool table.
A scientific cause is an event. So the cue ball strikes the 8 ball, causing it to roll into the corner pocket.
Right, and science studies that chain of impacts.
The transfer of momentum, the actual events happening on the table.
But the philosophical condition is something else entirely.
Right. The philosophical condition is the felt on the table.
Oh, interesting.
It's the flat geometry of the slate beneath the felt. It's the existence of friction. It's the sequential passage of time that allows motion to occur at all.
So science asks, what caused the 8 ball to move?
While quantum onlyism asks, what must be true for the concepts of motion, impact, and sequence to even exist in the first place?
Because if there is no sequential update, a cause literally cannot precede an effect.
Exactly. And if there is no structural constraint, a billiard ball cannot hold a spherical form.
So physics studies the events, but quantum onlyism tries to map the absolute minimal arena that makes those events intelligible.
That's perfectly stated.
Yeah.
And to map that arena, the framework introduces its primary operational tool.
Which is the method of conditions.
Yes. And this isn't just some abstract, airy idea. It's a highly aggressive diagnostic method.
How does it work in practice?
It works by taking any proposed explanation for reality and then relentlessly asking what conditions make that explanation possible.
Audit of assumptions.
It does. Let me give you an example. Say a theoretical physicist argues that information is the fundamental root of reality.
Okay. The method of conditions would step in and ask what?
It would ask, what is required for information to be intelligible at all?
Well, information requires distinction, right? Like a 0 is structurally distinct from a 1.
Exactly. And that distinction implies the condition of form or nature.
Ah, I see. And furthermore, actually processing that information requires a sequence,
Right. Reading the 0 and then moving on to read the 1.
which implies the condition of time.
Precisely.
Hmm.
And therefore, information cannot be the absolute.
You know, if we follow this audit back through the history of philosophy, we run into some very familiar territory.
We absolutely do.
Because when we talk about absolute conditions, structure, and change, we were walking on ground paved by absolute heavyweights.
We have to ask what is genuinely distinct here.
Right, like, is this just Aristotle rebooted? Because Aristotle wrote extensively on form and motion. It's basically hylomorphism.
It's a fair critique.
Hmm.
Aristotle certainly recognized form and motion, but there is a distinct divergence in the architecture here.
How so?
Well, Aristotle treated form and matter as attributes that were locked within individual substances.
Like a bronze sphere has the form of a sphere and the matter of bronze.
Right, and it possesses the potential for motion, but quantum onlyism liberates these concepts from the individual object.
Oh, so it doesn't start with a substance and ask how it changes.
Exactly. Treats structure and ordered update as universal interactive fields that underlie all existence.
So, or the Neoplatonists, like Plotinus.
They were deeply obsessed with finding unity.
Right, grounding reality in a single infinite substance or some transcendent one.
Like Spinoza's Deus of Natura God or nature, he argued for a single substance with infinite attributes.
So where does Onlysm diverge from Spinoza?
The divergence is the shift from a singular substance to an interactive relationship.
Meaning?
Well, Plotinus sought an ineffable unity from which everything emanates. Spinoza sought a single infinite block of reality.
But there's an inherent problem with strict monism, isn't there?
A huge one. It's incredibly difficult to explain how a perfectly unified,
Not a monistic entity.
Right. It is an interactive dualism.
It requires the necessary, inescapable co-presence of ordered update and structural constraint.
A singular condition literally cannot produce a universe. Reality is born in the friction between the two.
We also really have to address Kant here. Immanuel Kant is perhaps the most famous architect of asking about the conditions of possibility.
He basically pioneered the transcendental deduction.
Kant was primarily focused on epistemology, right? The conditions of human cognition.
Yes, he argued that space and time are the lenses, the a priori structures, through which the human mind perceives phenomena.
So he built a wall between how we perceive the world and the thing in itself.
The noumenal realm, which he claimed we could never truly know.
So how does this framework differ from Kant?
Quantum onlyism takes Kant's transcendental method, but applies it directly to ontology.
To reality itself, independent of human psychology.
Exactly. It makes the really bold claim that sequence and structure are not just the lenses of the human mind.
They are the unavoidable mechanics of the noumenal realm itself.
Right. They are the conditions of existence, period.
Okay, one more historical comparison. What about process philosophy?
Going all the way back to Heraclitus saying everything flows.
Right? Versus structuralism, which fixates on static form and unchanging laws.
Quantum onlyism effectively forces a marriage between them.
By demonstrating that neither is intelligible without the other.
Exactly. Change without structure is meaningless noise. There is no defined entity undergoing the change.
And conversely, structure without ordered update is just a frozen dead size in semantic repackaging.
It is the most vital objection to raise.
Because are the authors just taking Aristotle's form, renaming it nature, taking his motion, renaming it time, applying Kant's logic, and pretending they've discovered a new continent?
And honestly, the authors of the white papers anticipate that exact critique.
They concede the point.
They concede that their terminology points to the exact same fundamental features of reality that older traditions observed.
Because humanity has always known there is structure and there is change.
They use them to categorize what they observed in the world.
Okay.
Quantum onlyism uses them formally. It deploys them as the only necessary and sufficient conditions for intelligibility.
And it uses this formalization to ruthlessly strip away the need for external metaphysical entities.
Exactly. It's not just describing the universe. It is establishing a logical floor that renders the supernatural intentionally redundant.
Which brings us to the operational core of Book 1, how it defines existence as that explanatory floor.
And they provide a very precise, unyielding definition.
I have it right here. It says, existence is the total ongoing reality within which all real states, relations, and
Sounds like a profound tautology.
a self-evident loop that doesn't actually tell us anything new.
Right. But its function in this philosophical framework is entirely weaponized.
It acts as a logical trapdoor for supernatural claims.
Yes. And we need to explain how that trapdoor works, because this is where the framework directly confronts traditional theology.
Okay, let's set it up. If we assume a theistic creator, traditional theology posits that this entity exists quote-unquote outside of space, time, and the physical universe.
Right. A transcendent zone.
Yet, this creator is assigned actions. It wills the universe into being, it thinks, it intervenes.
So let's run that through the method of conditions.
Let's do it.
Doing something requires being something. An absolute void, a non-entity, has no causal power.
Obviously. So to act, the creator must exist.
But the moment you concede the creator exists, it falls under the only axiom.
It becomes part of existence.
And therefore,
If a being performs an action, like the act of creating, It is operating within a sequence of before the action and after the action.
which makes it immediately subject to the condition of time.
So you literally cannot have your cake and eat it too.
No, you cannot. You can't claim an entity is real enough to forge the cosmos, but somehow magically exempt from the logical requirements of being real.
An outside of existence cause is literally a contradiction in terms.
The moment the creator acts, thinks, or relates, it is pulled inside.
The ultimate floor. Does this actually solve the problem of infinite regress?
That is the primary tack vector for any rigorous skeptic.
Because the classic cosmological argument says contingent things need a cause, leading back to a necessary being.
Right.
So if we say existence just is, sustained by time and nature, are we actually explaining reality, or are we just throwing our hands up and declaring the regress over by fiat?
It's a great question. If I say God made the universe, you ask, who made God?
And if you say the universe is sustained by time and nature, I should rightly ask, why do time and nature exist rather than nothing?
Exactly. And the framework attempts to resolve the universe as a giant machine, a collection of planets, stars, and physical laws. It is entirely rational to ask, who built the machine?
Because objects imply manufacturer.
Right. But quantum Onlysm argues that the absolute floor of reality isn't the physical machine.
It's the interactive field that makes any machine logical.
No, it is the logical prerequisite for the intelligibility of anything at all.
So it terminates the regress logically, not arbitrarily.
Right. We have to stop asking what made the machine and start asking what are the absolute minimum requirements for a machine to operate.
You're essentially looking for the operating system that allows reality to compute, not the factory that stamped the hardware.
That's exactly it. And that operating system is self-sustaining because its absence is logically inconceivable.
Right, which leads us directly into the formal proof of the framework, what they call the only argument.
Let's lay out the argument.
We'll start with the plain language version, and then we will translate the formal propositional logic, because the source material really demands rigor here.
Okay, the plain language argument goes like this.
Without nature, which the framework defines strictly as constraint, form, and identity, nothing is anything.
Reality would just be a featureless, indistinguishable blur.
Right, and without time defined strictly as ordered, update, sequence, and process.
Okay, now let's translate the formal propositional logic into plain English.
Because the text relies heavily on demonstrating mathematical validity.
Let E stand for intelligible existence.
Okay, E is existence.
Let T stand for time, acting as ordered update.
Got it.
And let N stand for nature, acting as structural constraint.
So E is our reality that makes sense. T is the sequence. N is the structure.
The first premise states, E implies the conjunction of T and N.
Okay, in logic, this means if existence is real and intelligible, then ordered update and constraint must already be actively operating.
You cannot have a coherent reality without structure and sequence already in place. T and N implies E.
Now this is the heavier lift.
It is. It argues that together, ordered update and structural constraint are sufficient for states to occur, relate, and stabilize.
So if you possess the capacity for sequence and the capacity for form, you possess the necessary and sufficient ingredients for a reality to exist.
Exactly. You do not require some mystical third ingredient to animate it.
Which brings us to the formal conclusion. If E guarantees T and N together guarantee E, we arrive at a biconditional relationship.
Existence is mathematically identical to the union of time and nature.
And here is where I must interject ontology.
Oh, absolutely.
If you define existence as requiring structure and change, and then you define nature and time as structure and change, aren't you just proving your own definitions?
You're setting up a totally circular loop.
A bachelor is an unmarried man. John is an unmarried man. Therefore, John is a bachelor.
Right. It is logically airtight. It is epistemologically empty.
It doesn't actually tell us anything new about the mechanics of the universe.
And the authors devote a massive portion of the white papers to defending against this exact critique.
They call it the
Transcendental defense argues that the framework isn't just arbitrarily defining terms to make a mathematical proof work.
It's not just playing word games.
No, it derives those terms from the inescapable absolute requirements of intelligibility itself.
And they issue a pretty potent challenge regarding this.
They do. The framework issues a challenge to the reader. I challenge you right now to make an intelligible claim about reality, any claim at all, even a vehement denial of quantum onlyism, without utilizing distinction or sequence.
Okay, make a claim without distinction or sequence. Let's try it. Let's say I want to completely reject the premise. I'll say the universe is fundamentally random, unstructured chaos.
Okay, but in the very act of making that claim, you relied on the conditions you were trying to deny.
How so?
You distinguished the
Form.
exactly. Furthermore, you formulated a sentence, a sequence of logical thoughts, moving from subject to predicate to convey your proposition.
Which relies entirely on the condition of time or ordered update.
You cannot even articulate a coherent denial of the framework without relying on the exact foundational conditions the framework identifies.
That is fascinating. The denial itself necessitates the use of the conditions, empirically proving their necessity.
It really does.
It reminds me of someone trying to argue that vocal cords don't exist by using their vocal cords to shout the argument.
That's a perfect analogy. It escapes the tautology trap because these conditions are not mere semantic agreements.
They are the unavoidable operational geometry of reality.
If you attempt to step outside of them, your argument doesn't just become false, it collapses into literal nonsense.
You cannot speak, think, conceptualize, or exist without structure and sequence.
Therefore, they constitute the absolute floor.
Let's push this structural geometry further, because one of the most controversial leaps the framework makes later on involves ethics.
Oh, bridging the Izot gap.
Right. In philosophical circles, bridging the gap between what is and what ought to be is notoriously difficult.
It's the classic Izot fallacy formulated by David Hume.
Just because they attempt to cross this bridge without committing a massive logical fallacy.
They tread very, very carefully here. The texts explicitly state that you cannot draw a direct, simplistic line from metaphysics to morality.
You cannot say the universe is comprised of time and nature, therefore you shouldn't steal cars.
Exactly. That would instantly fail the fallaciot.
So how do they build the bridge?
The bridge they build relies entirely on the mechanics of systemic equilibrium.
Think of it like putting the wrong fuel into an engine.
Yes. It's not that the engine has a quote-unquote moral objection to diesel when it requires gasoline.
It's that the engine has a specific structural reality, and introducing the wrong substance, seeking equilibrium.
Right. And conscious beings experience the field of time and nature subjectively.
So the actions we take within this field generate profound ripple effects.
Actions that introduce severe incoherence, like violence, deceit, or exploitation, create literal distortion within the field of relations.
This distortion manifests systemically as suffering, instability, or collapse.
So the ought isn't a commandment handed down from a sky god.
It is a thermodynamic and structural reality.
Coherence reduces unnecessary friction and harm. Incoherence increases it.
Accountability doesn't come from divine judgment.
No, it is an inescapable consequence of our awareness of this mechanism.
Ethics in this framework transitions from a test of obedience into a technology of maintaining equilibrium.
It's about aligning our localized actions with the universal action wastes energy and creates localized destruction.
It does, but it fundamentally relies on accepting the universe as a purely mechanistic, interactive condition,
Devoid of inherent supernatural teleology or grand design.
which perfectly sets up our final synthesis of the framework and its unresolved problems.
Because there are definitely unresolved problems.
Oh, absolutely. But if we look at the strengths of quantum onlyism first, the primary advantage is parsimony.
Parsimony being the principle of extreme economy of explanation.
Right. Accounting for the most data with the fewest assumptions.
And this framework accounts for structure, change, relation, causation, and intelligibility, using only two minimal interdependent conditions.
In doing so, it navigates between two major philosophical pitfalls.
First, it completely neutralizes the outside zone problem of traditional theism.
By exposing the logical contradiction of a transcendent creator.
Second, it solves the mere negation problem that haunts baseline atheism.
Okay, let's touch on
Successfully identifies the incoherence of the external creator, but it frequently fails to provide a robust, positive structural floor beneath reality.
declaring not God still leaves you with the burden of explaining what are the actual conditions that render existence possible and intelligible.
And quantum onlyism provides that positive, mathematically rigorous floor.
The interactive union of ordered update and structural constraint.
But I have to point out, there's a glaring stylistic choice in the texts that we cannot ignore.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Throughout the white papers, the authors repeatedly use the terms Father Time and Mother Nature.
Yes, they do. And if this is supposed to be a rigorously non-supernatural, logically austere philosophy, why deploy language that sounds like it was ripped from ancient mythology?
Doesn't personifying these forces in
Strategy.
the framework is explicit that Father Time and Mother Nature are utilized functionally, not as literal supernatural agents with personalities.
The argument is historical, right?
Yeah, they argue that humanity intuitively recognized these two fundamental conditions for tens of thousands of years.
Early humans observed the relentless directional sequence of change.
And they conceptualized it as the active, penetrating father principle.
And they observed the generative structuring containing reality of the physical world.
And they conceptualize it as the mother principle.
But because they lacked the vocabulary of formal logic or quantum mechanics, they placed a personified skin over the mechanics.
They turn the underlying math into a myth.
So quantum onlyism attempts to reclaim those terms by arguing that the ancient myth was merely a misunderstanding of a genuine mechanical reality.
By retaining the terms, but meticulously stripping them of supernatural intention, the framework builds a conceptual bridge.
It is essentially saying to the religious or mythologically inclined mind, your intuition wasn't wrong. You were sensing the genuine, absolute conditions of reality.
You simply dress those conditions in a personality.
It's an incredibly ambitious attempt to decode human narrative back into universal mechanism.
But this is where I find functional mechanics ordered, updating, constraint. Where does that lead the human experience?
Right.
If we stop viewing nature as a mother who might nurture or punish us and start viewing it strictly as an unyielding condition, doesn't a purely structural framework risk losing the depth, the warmth, and the subjective richness of human life?
The only argument holds up beautifully against the tautology critique.
But traversing the gap from raw, unfeeling conditions, update and constraint, to the rich, qualitative, subjective experience of human consciousness remains a monumental philosophical leap.
The texts attempt to bridge this with the concept of recognition and what they call Bayesian onlyism.
They model consciousness as a highly advanced Bayesian update, where the universe continuously learns and refines its own structure based on probabilities.
Yes, the proposition is that when the feedback loop between time and nature achieves sufficient density and complexity, a localized system becomes capable of recognizing its own recognition.
That recursive self-referential loop is the architecture of consciousness.
But outlining the architecture of a recursive loop is vastly different from explaining what that loop feels like from the inside.
The core logic of Book 1 treats emotion and subjective experience as physics lived from the inside.
It is a profoundly poetic phrase, and it fits perfectly within their mechanistic model.
However, philosophically, the hard problem of consciousness, the unquantifiable what it is likeness of being alive, of feeling grief, of experiencing awe, is still lurking heavily in the background.
The core logic maps the floor, but it doesn't fully explain the dancer.
Exactly. Physics lived from the inside. It does summarize the entire ethos of the framework, even if it leaves the deepest mysteries of the subjective experience open for debate.
But perhaps a foundational metaphysics isn't designed to hold our hand or provide cosmic warmth.
Perhaps its only job is to guarantee that the floor we are standing on isn't going to evaporate under the pressure of logical scrutiny.
Well, if we summarize the achievements of this specific audit, quantum onlyism succeeds in constructing a remarkably parsimonious, self-contained system.
It forces any philosopher or theologian proposing a metaphysical claim to rigorously define their terms and their foundational assumptions.
It effectively dismantles the historically confused concept of absolute nothingness.
And it exposes the logical paradox of an outside creator.
It offers a robust, purely mechanistic vocabulary for understanding how existence sustains itself without appealing to magic.
Yet it demands a radical rewiring of human intuition.
It asks us to abandon our deep-seated desire for a clean, binary origin story, a builder, and a building.
It demands that we accept reality as fundamentally an ongoing interactive condition rather than a manufactured object.
It elevates observation over belief.
It asks us to look clearly at the geometry of reality, the continuous, inescapable feedback loop of motion and form, and recognize that we are deeply, inextricably embedded within it.
Which brings us to the end of our analysis for today. We set out to test the philosophy-only core of quantum onlyism, Book 1 and the method of conditions.
We explored how it shifts the search from a creator to the absolute conditions of reality, time as ordered update, and nature as structural constraint.
We ran its formal logic through the fallacy audit, explored its defense against infinite regress, and discovered a rigorously structured argument that severely challenges both traditional theism and purely negative physicalism.
By establishing a self-sustaining, mathematically verifiable floor to existence.
We found a
Mechanics ordered, updating, constraint. Where does that lead the human experience?
Right.
If we stop viewing nature as a mother who might nurture or punish us and start viewing it strictly as an unyielding condition, doesn't a purely structural framework risk losing the depth, the warmth, and the subjective richness of human life?
The only argument holds up beautifully against the tautology critique.
But traversing the gap from raw, unfeeling conditions, update, and constraint, to the rich, qualitative, subjective experience of human consciousness remains a monumental philosophical leap.
The texts attempt to bridge this with the concept of recognition and what they call Bayesian Onlyism.
They model consciousness as a highly advanced Bayesian update, where the universe continuously learns and refines its own structure based on probabilities.
Yes, the proposition is that when the feedback loop between time and nature achieves sufficient density and complexity, a localized system becomes capable of recognizing its own recognition.
That recursive self is the architecture of consciousness.
But outlining the architecture of a recursive loop is vastly different from explaining what that loop feels like from the inside.
The core logic of Book 1 treats emotion and subjective experience as physics lived from the inside.
It is a profoundly poetic phrase, and it fits perfectly within their mechanistic model.
However, philosophically, the hard problem of consciousness, the unquantifiable what it is likeness of being alive, of feeling grief, of experiencing awe, is still lurking heavily in the background.
The core logic maps the floor, but it doesn't fully explain the dancer.
Exactly. Physics lived from the inside. It does summarize the entire ethos of the framework, even if it leaves the deepest mysteries of the subjective experience open for debate.
But perhaps a foundational metaphysics isn't designed to hold our hand or provide cosmic warmth.
Perhaps its only job is to guarantee that the floor we are standing on isn't going to evaporate under the pressure of logical scrutiny.
Well, if we summarize the achievements of this specific audit, quantum onlyism succeeds in constructing a remarkably parsimonious, self-contained system.
It forces any philosopher or theologian proposing a metaphysical claim to rigorously define their terms and their foundational assumptions.
It effectively dismantles the historically confused concept of absolute nothingness.
And it exposes the logical paradox of an outside creator.
It offers a robust, purely mechanistic vocabulary for understanding how existence sustains itself without appealing to magic.
Yet it demands a radical rewiring of human intuition.
It asks us to abandon our deep-seated desire for a clean, binary origin story, a builder, and a building.
It demands that we accept reality as fundamentally an ongoing interactive condition rather than a manufactured object.
It elevates observation over belief.
It asks us to look clearly at the geometry of reality, the continuous, inescapable feedback loop of motion and form, and recognize that we are deeply, inextricably embedded within it.
Which brings us to the end of our analysis for today. We set out to test the philosophy-only core of quantum onlyism, Book 1 and the method of conditions.
We explored how it shifts the search from a creator to the absolute conditions of reality, time as ordered update, and nature as structural constraint.
We ran its formal logic through the fallacy audit, explored its defense against infinite regress, and discovered a rigorously structured argument that severely challenges both traditional theism and purely negative physicalism.
By establishing a self-sustaining, mathematically verifiable floor to existence.
We found a framework disciplined enough to avoid smuggling in hidden assumptions, even as it leaves the dense subjective reality of human consciousness as an area demanding further, equally rigorous exploration.
It's been a phenomenal deep dive.
And that leads to a final provocative thought to leave you with as we wrap up.
I love a final thought.
If the method of conditions is accurate and existence is simply the continuous, unavoidable interaction of ordered update and structural constraint, then consider what is happening right now.
Right at this exact second.
Your very act of listening to this conversation, your mind processing these abstract ideas, navigating the logic, and perhaps shifting your perspective. If we are the fundamental conditions of reality made self-aware, if we are the universe looking back at its own structure through the lenses of time and nature, how does that fundamentally alter our responsibility to the world around us?
Wow.
If we are not subjects of transcendent king, but active participants in the structural equilibrium of reality, every choice we make either harmonizes with the conditions of existence or distorts them.
It reframes everything.
We started by talking about the comfort of a starting line, the human desire for a clean binary origin to explain everything.
But perhaps the truth is far more demanding.
Perhaps there is no starting gun, and there never was. There is only the track, the motion, the structure, and our sudden, startling realization that we are the ones running.
Attention all debate fans. You've been watching, you've been arguing, you've been picking sides. But now it's time to level up. From this point forward, all debates on this platform are going members only. That means the hottest clashes, the wildest arguments, and your favorite personalities going head to head will only be available to subscribers. You want real scholarship, you want the smoke, you want the unfiltered action, then don't get left outside looking in. Sign up today for as low as $3.99 and get full access to every debate, every moment, every knockout argument. This is Titans Debate League, where legends are made and debates get real. Join now or miss out.
Try to picture a state of complete non-existence.
It's surprisingly frustrating.
Right. No space, no blackness, no white void, no time, no potential, just nothing.
You literally can't do it.
You really can't. Every single time you try, your brain smuggles something in. You imagine this dark, empty room, which, well, that means you're imagining space.
Yeah, or you imagine a pause.
Exactly. A pause, which means you're imagining time. Your brain just literally will not allow you to conceptualize nothing.
It refuses.
And today we are looking at a huge stack of philosophical white papers, syllogistic outlines, and these really dense critical defense texts that argue your brain is absolutely right.
Yeah.
That nothingness is not just hard to picture, it is mathematically, operationally, and philosophically impossible.
It's a profound starting point, honestly. Because, for thousands of years, humanity has been trying to find the ultimate floor of reality. We just keep digging. Always looking for the bottom. Right, trying to find the absolute bottom level of the universe. But usually, the deeper we dig, the more the image blurs into this massive mess of unanswerable questions.
Yeah, it gets murky fast.
It does. But the text we are evaluating today claim to have finally hit bedrock. They present this massive framework known as quantum onlyism.
And our mission in this deep dive is to conduct a really serious, professional, critical analysis of just the philosophy-only core of this framework.
Strict boundaries.
Very strict. We're focusing exclusively on what is titled Book 1, exploring this thing called the only argument, and scrutinizing a methodology they call the method of conditions.
And we really need to establish those hard boundaries right now up front.
Yes.
Because we are evaluating a highly, highly structured metaphysical system here. The sources we've been provided explicitly separate this foundational philosophy from its extended applications.
So for the purpose of our analysis, we are leaving a massive amount of material entirely off the table.
Totally ignoring it.
Right. We are not discussing any of the framework's extended narratives. No divine mechanics, no soul transference, no religious technology application.
No angels.
No angels, no demons, no advanced AI historical lore, no moon civilizations, none of that.
We're staying strictly, uncompromisingly in the philosophical lane.
Exactly. We're focusing entirely on its foundational metaphysics and the logical architecture of its primary arguments.
Which honestly is exactly how a system like this must be evaluated. I mean, if the foundational logic fails, the extended applications just don't matter.
They fall apart.
Right. And our role here is not to act as cheerleaders, nor are we here to perform some, like, hostile takedown. We are professional critics. We want to know, does quantum onlyism introduce a genuinely distinct philosophical model to the age-old debate about existence?
Or is it just a reskin?
Exactly. Is it merely repackaging older philosophical traditions like process philosophy or Kantian idealism, just with new proprietary terminology? We're going to really test its logic.
Identify its hidden assumptions.
Yeah, and subject it to a really rigorous fallacy audit.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand a proposed solution, we first have to fully grasp the problem it is trying to solve.
And it's a big problem.
It is. The texts we're looking at begin with this really sweeping critique of how human beings have historically done philosophy. When we try to answer the question, what is the fundamental reality, we almost always point to a thing,
Right. A substance.
an object, some kind of fundamental noun.
That is basically the history of substance ontology in a nutshell. I mean, going all the way back to the ancient Greeks, you look at Thales, who said everything is ultimately made of water.
Or Democritus with the indivisible atoms.
Exactly. Fast forward to modern times, and we really do the exact same thing. We just have better microscopes now.
Right.
Materialists point to physical matter or, quantum fields as the fundamental floor. Idealists argue that mind or consciousness is the ultimate substance. Theologians propose a supreme being, an intelligent creator, as the foundational entity.
But regardless of the tradition, the human instinct is always to look for a foundational piece, a first Lego piece, basically, from which the rest of reality is constructed.
We desperately want a starting block.
We do, but the authors of these white papers argue that this entire approach, beginning with a substance, literally any substance at all, is a catastrophic philosophical error.
Oh, they don't pull their punches.
No, they really don't. The text argues that the moment you propose a fundamental substance, you immediately trigger one of the most fatal logical traps in philosophy, the infinite regress.
The absolute nightmare of every metaphysician.
Or regress.
Yeah, it is the classic who made the maker problem. If you propose, say, an intelligent creator who stands outside of the universe and builds it, the immediate, unavoidable question your logic demands is, what conditions allowed that creator to exist in the first place?
Who created the creator?
Right. And if you try to wave that away by just saying, oh, well, the creator is uncreated, you haven't actually solved the logical problem.
You just put up a stop sign.
Exactly. You've just placed this arbitrary dogmatic stop sign on your inquiry.
And the text is incredibly sharp on this point. It points out that quantum onlyism critiques traditional theism, sure, but it equally critiques what it calls mere atheistic negation.
Yeah. Neither side gets away clean.
Let's look at the critique of theism first, because the framework claims that proposing a creator actually smuggles in the very conditions it is trying to explain. Let's think about this practically.
Okay.
If a creator acted to create the universe, that action implies a sequence. There is a state before the action and a state after the action.
Right.
But wait, if there's a before and an after, then the condition of time already exists.
Precisely. And it goes even further than that. If this proposed creator has a specific identity, like a will, an intellect, a boundary that makes it distinct from non-existence, then the condition of form or structure already exists.
So the creator didn't invent them.
No, the unavoidable conclusion is that the creator did not invent time and structure. The creator is utilizing them.
Wow.
Therefore, the creator is subject to the rules of existence, not the author of them. The framework basically argues that any external creator hypothesis collapses because the ability to exist and act presupposes an arena in which existence and action are even possible.
But atheism doesn't get a free pass here either.
Definitely not.
The framework argues that simply saying there is no creator, which the text labels mere negation, rejects a flawed model but completely fails to provide a positive metaphysical floor of its own.
It's just saying what isn't there.
Yeah. If you just point to a quantum field and say, hey, that's the bottom, you run into the exact same regress. What generated the quantum field? What dictates the mathematical laws governing that field?
Saying what reality isn't does not explain why reality is intelligible, structured, and dynamic in the first place.
And this is where we hit a major paradigm shift in the text. To escape this infinite regress of what caused what, the framework demands we abandon the concept of creation entirely.
Yeah, the text is very, very strict about its vocabulary here.
Creation, it argues, implies bringing something out of absolute nothingness, usually from some, supernatural outside zone.
But as we established right at the start of this deep dive, absolute nothingness is a non-operational concept. You cannot define it, and you certainly cannot define a mechanism by which absolute nothingness suddenly generates a universe.
So instead of creation, the framework introduces the concept of formation.
This is a crucial distinction.
It really is. The universe isn't just popping into existence from a void. Instead, it is transforming from an unobservable state of equilibrium into observable states. It's an internal reorganization. Let me give you a physical analogy.
Sure.
Think about water forming into ice. The ice didn't just pop into existence from nowhere.
The H2O molecules were already there.
Right. But under specific constraints, like a drop in temperature or a change in pressure, those molecules reorganized their structure. They shifted their phase, they formed.
The shift from creation to formation is arguably the hinge upon which this entire early philosophy swings. Creation from nothing, the text argues, completely abandons the operational limits of logic.
It's just magic, essentially.
Right. Formation, however, keeps the entire explanation strictly inside existence. It relies on internal reorganization under systemic constraints, rather than relying on external magic or, supernatural intervention.
Okay, but I'm going to step in and push back on this because I think a lot of listeners will feel the exact same way I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is swapping the word creation for formation really solving the metaphysical problem, or is it just a really clever semantic dodge? Let's use a different real-world analogy. If I bake a cake, I am forming it. I'm taking pre-existing ingredients like flour, sugar, eggs, and I'm reorganizing their chemical structure under the constraint of heat in my oven. I absolutely did not create the flour from absolute nothingness. I formed the cake. But I still had to be there to bake it. I am the baker. Doesn't the existence of a formed cake inherently imply a process that needs a driver? Does removing the concept of a baker actually explain how the cake got there?
I see the appeal of that objection, and it's the most natural counterargument to make. It really is.
It feels obvious.
It does. But if we audit the framework's exact textual defense,
Mhm.
your analogy of the baker actually ends up supporting their point, not refuting it.
Wait, really? How?
Because when you bake that cake, you are not functioning as a supernatural entity sitting outside of reality. You are a localized biological system. You are operating within time, and you are utilizing the nature of chemistry and physics. You are part of the formation process, entirely contained inside the system.
I see. So I'm just another formation interacting with a different formation.
Exactly. Removing the supernatural baker, a baker who supposedly exists outside of space and time, doesn't negate the existence of the cake. It just forces us to look at the actual operational conditions that allow flour, moisture, and heat to interact in the first place.
Okay, that makes sense.
The text argues that the universe doesn't need an external driver because the ingredients and the heat, the fundamental conditions themselves, are inherently dynamic.
And that brings us to the most vital analytical tool in this entire framework. Because hunting for fundamental substances completely fails to stop the infinite regress, quantum onlyism introduces a completely different tool to halt the chain.
It moved the entire philosophical project away from substances.
Yes, and demands we look for fundamental conditions. The texts refer to this as the method of conditions.
If you take away nothing else from this deep dive, understand this method.
Because it is the engine powering the whole philosophy. Instead of looking at reality and asking, what is this made of? The method of conditions asks a prior question.
Right. What conditions must already obtain, what must already be true and present for any proposed fundamental entity to exist, persist, act, relate, or even be intelligible?
It is a complete inversion of how humanity usually investigates origins.
The rule of the method is brutally simple, but highly effective. If X requires Y to exist, then Y has explanatory priority. Therefore, conditions will always possess explanatory priority over substances.
Let's ground that for you, the listener. Let's apply the method of conditions right now to the device you are using to listen to this audio. Let's say it's a smartphone.
Okay.
If I ask you what is fundamental to this phone, you might say the silicon chips, the battery, the glass screen. But the method of conditions steps in and asks what conditions make those physical materials possible.
Well, they require spatial dimensions to occupy.
Right. They require the laws of electromagnetism to allow the battery to hold a charge. They require the passage of time for the processor to execute code.
Without the conditions of space, physical laws, and time, the physical substances of glass and silicon literally cannot exist or function.
Therefore, the conditions possess explanatory priority over the object itself.
That's a really solid practical application. Now let's apply it to the heavy metaphysical claims. Let's take modern physics. If a physicist claims that information or quantum fields are the fundamental building blocks of the universe, the method of conditions asks, what conditions make information possible?
Well, information, by definition, requires a structure to be encoded within.
Exactly, and a sequence to be transmitted through. A static, formless void cannot hold information, so structure and sequence have explanatory priority over information.
And returning to theology, if someone claims God is the ultimate floor, the method asks what conditions allow God to have an identity distinct from non-God.
Identity requires the condition of boundary or form, what allows a God to think or act. Action requires the condition of sequence. Therefore, the conditions of form and sequence possess explanatory priority over the concept of God.
The sheer logical utility of this method is striking. It forces the infinite regress to finally terminate. The regress doesn't end in a magical first object, like an unmoved mover or an eternal particle. It terminates in first conditions.
This raises an important question, though. As a philosophical critic, my immediate job is to ask, is this genuinely new?
Right.
Because when you read through these white papers, this rigorous, almost obsessive focus on conditions of possibility sounds suspiciously like some heavyweight philosophers from the past. We really cannot talk about conditions of possibility without the ghost of Immanuel Kant entering the room.
Yes, let's go there. For listeners who might not have a philosophy degree, Immanuel Kant was an 18th century philosopher who completely upended how we think about reality with something called transcendental idealism. How does the method of conditions compare to Kant?
Well, Kant fundamentally argued that human beings can never know the thing in itself. We can never know the universe exactly as it objectively is, which he called the noumenal world.
Because we're stuck in our own heads.
Exactly. However, he said we can know the necessary conditions of our own minds that make experiencing the world possible.
Yeah.
He argued that human cognition comes pre-installed with certain software, specifically the lenses of space and time.
Right.
We perceive everything spatially and temporally because that's literally the only way our brains can process data. So the skeptic in me looks at quantum onlyism and asks, is this just Kantian transcendental argumentation repackaged with a modern coat of paint? Or are they just saying we need time and structure to understand things?
The sources actually anticipate this exact critique.
Oh, they do.
There's a whole defense laid out in the text detailing the split from Kant. The defense is that Kant limited these conditions entirely to human cognition. Kant said space and time are just the software our human brains use to process reality.
But onlyism goes further.
Much further. Quantum onlyism takes those conditions and radically extends them to reality itself. It argues that sequence and structure aren't just how human beings perceive the universe. They are the fundamental conditions required for the universe to be a universe, regardless of whether a human mind, an animal, or an alien is there to look at it.
They're ontological conditions, not just cognitive ones.
Which is a massive leap.
It is.
Yeah.
And we also have to evaluate this against Aristotle. Aristotle gave us hylomorphism, the idea that every physical object is a combination of substance, which is matter, and form.
Right, so a wooden table is the substance of wood combined with the structural form of a table.
Exactly. But again, the text defends its originality here. Aristotle attached form to individual localized objects. Quantum onlyism treats the condition of form, what it will later call nature, not as an attribute of an individual object, but as the universal baseline condition for any existence whatsoever.
It detaches form from the object and makes it the arena itself. This shift completely reframes the metaphysical debate. Think about how many late-night dorm room conversations or, dense philosophical treatises revolve around the famous question, why is there something rather than nothing?
Almost all of them.
This framework essentially says that entire question is structurally broken because absolute nothing is an incoherent concept that violates the rules of intelligibility.
Right.
Instead, it asks a much more productive, actionable question. What must be present for something to be structured, dynamic, and knowable? It stops looking for a ghost outside the machine and starts mapping the absolute bare minimum requirements for the machine to run.
But if the method of conditions forces us to trace every substance, every event, and every entity back to its required conditions, we have to ask where that chain finally stops.
Because even conditions imply a state of being.
Exactly. You can't have a condition in a non-existent void. According to the text, the logical regress chain looks like this. Substances require conditions, and conditions require existence. The inquiry absolutely terminates at the very concept of existence itself.
And here we hit Book One's formal definition of existence. It is vital to note that it is not treated as some vague, mystical ether.
No, it's very precise.
The text defines existence as the total ongoing reality within which all real states, relations, and beings obtain. And this leads directly to what they call the only axiom.
Right.
The only axiom states, quite simply, nothing exists outside existence.
On the surface, I mean, that sounds like a truism. It sounds almost painfully obvious, like saying all bachelors are unmarried.
Yeah.
But the text argues that most historical philosophies and almost all theologies violate this axiom constantly. The moment someone says a creator outside of existence made the universe, they have contradicted themselves in a fatal way.
Because if they made it, they have to exist.
Because if that creator is real and has the power to act and create, then that creator exists. And if they exist, they are part of existence, not outside of it. You cannot have a vantage point outside of the totality of reality. By definition, there is no outside. Therefore, existence itself is the final explanatory horizon.
Okay, wait, I have to jump in and actively challenge this step.
Go for it.
Let's really scrutinize this because it feels like a sleight of hand to me. If we just say existence explains existence, aren't we committing a massive tautology?
It definitely sounds like one.
Aren't we just pointing at the universe, shrugging our shoulders and saying, well, it is because it is? If I ask, why is there a universe? And your answer is because existence exists, how is that logically any better than pointing at a creator and saying he is because he is? It feels like we just swapped one arbitrary stop sign for another.
That is the most potent and immediate objection a critic can raise. And to their credit, the authors of these white papers address it head on. The sources include an explicit fallacy audit designed to combat exactly this charge.
So how do they defend it?
They argue that it is not a tautology because they are not using the word existence as a mere dictionary definition. They're using it as the terminal point of explanatory analysis. Let me break down how they differentiate this.
Please do.
If you keep asking why or what caused this, you are eventually going to strip away every layer of matter, every unit of energy, and every theoretical substance. When every single explanation is stripped away, what remains is not a blank void. What remains is the sheer irreducible ability for anything to be at all.
Capacity to be.
That fundamental capacity to be is what they mean by existence.
Yeah.
It's not a tautology. It's the recognition that you have hit ontological bedrock. Existence is the condition under which the question, what caused this, is even possible to ask. You cannot ask a question outside of existence.
Okay, I follow that. So existence isn't a third object sitting behind reality pulling the strings. It is the condition of being able to be. It's the arena itself.
Yes.
But the text is very clear that for this arena, for existence to be intelligible, for it to be more than just a meaningless static blur of raw potential, it requires two specific non-optional pillars.
And this brings us to the absolute core formula of the framework.
Because establishing that inquiry terminates at existence is really only half the battle. The next logical step is to determine exactly what makes existence functional and knowable.
This is where the framework lays its absolute foundation. It presents what is called the only argument. The only argument is presented as the bare minimum architecture of reality. Let's lay out the plain language version of the argument first, before we dig into the formal logic.
Good idea.
The argument goes like this. Without nature, nothing is anything. Without time, nothing happens. Therefore, time and nature are necessary conditions of intelligible existence. Furthermore, together, time and nature are sufficient for intelligible existence.
I want to read the formal logical structure provided in the text because it's important to see how rigid this is.
Let's hear the math.
Let E equal intelligible existence. Let T equal time, which they define strictly as ordered update. Let N equal nature, defined as constraint or form. The formula is E if and only if T and N. In logic, that's a biconditional statement.
Intelligible existence is equivalent to time and nature operating together.
But we really need to define these terms exactly as the sources do, because they aren't using them the way we do in everyday casual conversation.
Right, the vocabulary here is very specific. Let's start with time, which the framework refers to with the proprietary term fati. The text is explicitly clear that fati is not clock time.
It's not a stopwatch.
No, it is not the human measurement of hours, minutes, and seconds. It's not the ticking of a watch. Time, in this metaphysical framework, is the operational requirement for sequence. It is the condition of before and after, of occurrence, of ordered update, and of change.
So it's just the fact that things happen sequentially.
Exactly. If you remove this condition of time, reality doesn't just slow down. It becomes a completely frozen, mathematically static picture where no causation, no movement, no physical laws, and no thought can ever occur.
And then there's nature, referred to as Mona. Again, we have to strip away our everyday associations. This is not a reference to trees, mountains, wildlife, or biological ecosystem.
No organic nature here.
Right. Nature here is the condition of form, structure, identity, and boundary. It is the fundamental constraint that allows one thing to be distinguished from another. Without nature, there is no whatness. There is no shape to reality.
It would just be an undifferentiated infinite noise where nothing could be identified, measured, or experienced.
Together, time and nature form what the text calls the union. This union of sequence and structure is what makes reality possible. Now, this is a critical point of analysis where we must separate the philosophy from theology. The text frequently refers to this union of time and nature as the highest power or the only divinity, but it uses these terms strictly as functional titles.
The authors explicitly strip these titles of any supernatural personality, intention, emotional states, or mythological baggage.
It is not a god that hears prayers.
It is a statement of supremacy. It is saying that the most powerful, fundamental, inescapable truth of the universe is the entangled interaction of sequence and structure.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because when you first hear time and nature, it sounds abstract. But let's do a thought experiment to test how inescapable this union actually is.
Let's do it.
I want you, the listener, to try to describe any event in reality. It could be a supernova exploding in a distant galaxy, a chemical reaction in a laboratory, a childhood memory, or even just the abstract thought you're having in your head right this second.
Try to describe it without using sequence.
Exactly. Without a before and an after, without an update, you can't, nothing happens. Now try to describe it without using structure.
Without any boundaries, forms, or identities that distinguish one element from another.
You can't do that either. It's literally impossible. Every single claim about reality, every observation, every rigorous scientific theory, and every religious belief must ultimately cash out into these two phrases: sequence and structure, time and nature.
What's fascinating here is how this operates as a universal asset. It eats through every other foundational claim.
It really does.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the framework is claiming that these two conditions are the inescapable foundation of intelligibility itself. Think about René Descartes. Descartes famously tried to doubt everything until he reached an undeniable truth. I think, therefore I am. He proved the existence of the self.
Right.
But quantum onlyism goes deeper. It says you can doubt the existence of physical matter. You can doubt the existence of other minds. You can doubt the existence of God. You can even doubt the coherent identity of your own self.
But you can't doubt time and nature.
You absolutely cannot doubt the existence of sequence and structure. Why? Because the very act of doubting is a process.
It's
It
amazing.
requires a sequence of thoughts, which is time. And it requires distinct
It's
structured
amazing.
concepts to doubt, which is nature.
Wow.
To argue against time and nature, you have to use time and nature. It is a brilliantly tight logical loop.
Brilliant.
Structurally incredibly sound. It feels impenetrable. But, and this is a big, but the deep dive isn't over. We have laid out the architecture of Book 1. We understand the method of conditions, the definition of existence, and the only argument.
But now we have to subject this entire edifice to the skeptic's crucible.
Exactly. As professional critics, we have to ask, does this framework actually survive when we attack its weakest points? Because any philosophical system can look good on paper in a vacuum until the skeptics arrive and start pulling at the threads.
And that brings us directly into the heavy lifting of philosophical critique. The sources provide a fascinating fallacy audit, which is basically the authors aggressively stress testing their own argument against classical logical fallacies.
We touched on the tautology objection regarding existence, but let's dig much deeper into what I consider the most potent threat to this framework.
The semantic repackaging objection.
Let's lay out the charge. The charge is that quantum onlyism is just physicalism or naturalism dressed up in new proprietary vocabulary. Physicalists, which is the dominant view in modern science, already believe that the universe is just physical matter and energy interacting over time according to natural law.
That's not what we are.
So by introducing terms like Fadi for time and Mona for nature, Is quantum onlyism just putting a mystical sounding skin on standard high school physics?
I'm going to say no.
Taking the standard scientific model and slapping a new copyright on it?
No.
Basically, yeah.
The textual defense against the semantic repackaging objection is highly nuanced, and it requires us to understand exactly
And
how
this is
matter
why.
functions in this framework.
Okay.
Physicalism usually starts with matter or energy as the fundamental primitive. It says essentially the universe is made of physical stuff, and that stuff is the bottom layer.
Right.
Quantum onlyism vehemently disagrees. It argues that matter and energy are not fundamental. They are downstream results. They are emergent properties.
So how does a physical object like a rock or a table or a quantum fluctuation actually exist in this framework?
The text argues that physical matter is what happens when structure, which is nature, and update, which is time, interact to create a localized constraint. Matter is just a highly dense, localized pattern of structural rules being continuously updated.
That is a crucial distinction. It answers the how and the why. Physicalism is a description of what is. It tells us there are quarks and leptons.
Yes.
Quantum onlyism is an analysis of the conditions required for those quarks and leptons to be intelligible in the first place. The
Correct.
framework argues that even if a physicist perfectly maps every single atom in the universe and proves reality is entirely physical, they still haven't explained the foundational conditions that allow physical laws to operate.
Exactly.
Right.
What allows a physical law to be consistent? The condition of nature, structure. What allows physical matter to move? The condition of time, update.
So onlyism claims to sit one layer deeper than physicalism.
Just
It
one.
is the metaphysical basement beneath the physics laboratory.
Let's return to the tautology objection and apply it directly to the only argument, because this is where a lot of academic philosophers would really try to dismantle it. Right. The objection goes like this. You are just defining existence as time and nature, and then you are triumphantly concluding that existence requires time and nature.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah,
define a
just
cat
said that
as a
to me.
four-legged mammal, and then proudly declare I've discovered that cats are mammals, I haven't made a profound discovery. I've just played a word game.
Is the only argument just a circular word game?
This is where we have to look closely at what the text calls the transcendental defense. This is complex, but it's vital. The framework argues that it doesn't just arbitrarily choose time and nature, jam them into a definition of existence, and
No,
call
no.
it a day.
We
So
don't.
what are they doing?
Instead, it extracts them from the inescapable operational requirements of intelligibility. Let's walk through the logical proof step by step, as a professional philosopher would.
Let's do it. Break it down.
Premise 1. Any meaningful claim about reality must be intelligible. If it's unintelligible gibberish, it's not a claim.
Makes sense.
Premise 2. Intelligibility intrinsically requires distinction and identity. You have to be able to tell A apart from B. Premise 3. Distinction and identity are functions of constraint, which the framework calls nature.
Okay, that covers structure.
Premise 4. Intelligibility also requires order, sequence, and relational update, because to perceive or act upon a distinction requires a process.
Got it.
Premise 5. Order and sequence are functions of ordered update, which the framework calls time.
Which leads to the conclusion.
Conclusion. Therefore, any meaningful claim about reality inherently requires both time and nature to be true. The argument isn't circular, it's genuinely transcendental.
It identifies the conditions that any denial must still logically presuppose.
Yes. When you try
Aha.
to argue against quantum onlyism, your very argument requires sequence, which is time to be spoken, and distinct concepts, which is nature, to be articulated. You have
Aha.
to stand on their floor to try and smash their floor.
That is a formidable defense. It takes the tautology objection and flips it into a demonstration of the framework's inevitability. But I want to keep us grounded and fair here. The text explicitly admits where the argument can get weak, and it's almost always in how it's phrased by its practitioners.
Phrasing is a huge liability here.
It really
A
is.
lot of people don't
If the
understand
argument is
phrase.
phrased emotionally, poetically, or mythologically, if someone stands up on a soapbox and yells, "Time and nature are the only God,"
You're wrong.
Well, it sounds like ancient superstition.
it sounds like you were just worshiping the ticking clock on the wall and the dirt outside.
Exactly. But if you present it logically and say time and nature are the necessary, non-optional functional conditions for causation, identity, and intelligibility, suddenly it is rigorous, airtight academic logic. The vocabulary and the tone matter immensely.
Tone is everything in philosophy. And as a critic, I have to point out the deep historical echoes here, because quantum onlyism did not emerge from a complete vacuum. It is synthesizing ancient concepts in a very modern way.
Who are we talking about here? This exact conditions of possibility argument deeply echoes Parmenides, Parmenides was an ancient Greek philosopher who focused entirely on what is the unchanging, structured, permanent reality of being.
Mhm.
He argued that change was an illusion and structure was everything.
So he
Yeah.
was all in on nature.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it equally echoes Heraclitus, the philosopher, who famously said you can never step in the same river twice, and later process philosophers like Alfred North Whitehead. They
Mhm.
focused on becoming.
The constant flow, sequence, and update of change.
Right. They argued that process is everything, and static structure is the illusion.
And this is where we evaluate whether the framework is genuinely distinct. What quantum onlyism does that is undeniably unique is that it absolutely refuses to elevate one over the other.
It doesn't pick a side.
It doesn't. It doesn't say
Yeah,
the
you
universe is
can't.
ultimately static structure, nor does it say it's ultimately just chaotic flux. It uniquely interlocks them as equal, inseparable, codependent peers. The being of nature and the becoming of time are mutually required.
You cannot have structure without the time to process it, and you cannot have time without a structure to update.
It's a grand
Correct.
synthesis of the two oldest competing ideas in human philosophy. And it achieves this synthesis without requiring a mystical third party to broker the peace.
'Cause you
It
don't
doesn't need a god to hold time and nature together.
Right. It just states functionally and mathematically that neither condition works without the other. Which brings us to the crucial task of synthesizing all of this.
The wrap up.
We have torn through the history of substance ontology, the logic of the infinite regress, the
So-
method of conditions, and the
What's up?
fallacy audits.
Which I
We've
thought.
stripped it down to its studs. So putting our critic hats firmly on, what are the strongest, most undeniable takeaways from Book 1 of Quantum Onlyism?
Synthesizing the sources, the absolute strongest point of quantum onlyism is its parsimony.
Explain parsimony for the listener real quick.
In philosophy, parsimony, often associated with Occam's razor, is the principle that the simplest explanation with the fewest assumptions is usually the best. Only Onlysm is incredibly brutally economical. It offers a mechanism-first framework that effectively eliminates the logical need for an external, intentional creator.
It successfully halts the infinite regress.
Yes, not by pointing to an uncaused cause or a magical first particle, but by terminating the inquiry at necessary conditions rather than substances. Furthermore, it proves that any attempt to describe a supernatural outside inevitably smuggles in the concepts of sequence and structure, thereby demonstrating that time and nature are, in fact, the true foundational floor. The logic is remarkably tight.
I agree. It's logically airtight that sequence and structure are required for intelligibility. You cannot break that equation. But we have to acknowledge the unresolved tensions here.
Definitely.
Because while the internal logic holds,
Mhm.
persuading traditional philosophers, let alone theologians or the general public,
Right.
to accept existence as a terminal explanatory horizon remains a massive, perhaps insurmountable paradigm shift.
People naturally want a reason
Shut up,
for
paradigm
existence.
shift.
They want a why.
Human beings are storytelling creatures, and we want a narrative arc to the universe. Quantum onlyism comes along and says that asking why existence exists is a structurally broken question, and you should only ask how it functions. That is a very bitter pill for the human psyche to swallow.
Many
Sorry
will
about
resist this framework simply because it coldly refuses to provide a comforting narrative of intention, purpose, or destiny.
That is the crux of the
Intention.
tension, and it's a profound one. It replaces the warmth of a personal creator or the grand narrative of a destined universe with the cold, functional elegance of necessary conditions.
It is deeply intellectually satisfying for a logician, but it is perhaps emotionally demanding for the average person seeking meaning.
So, what does this all mean for you? Why should you, the listener, care about the philosophical floor of existence? You might be thinking, this is great for a college seminar, but how does this impact my Tuesday morning?
It matters.
It matters because how you define the floor of reality fundamentally changes how you process everything else in your life. If reality isn't a designed artifact created by an external boss who is judging your every move, but rather a continuous, self-sustaining formation of structure and update, it shifts how you view your own existence.
You aren't a passive subject in a kingdom.
No, you are an active, localized, highly complex participant in this ongoing loop of time and nature. Your
Right.
choices are part of the update. Your habits are part of the structure. You are literally the universe recognizing itself in real time.
It demands a profound shift from belief to recognition. You don't have to believe in sequence and structure the way you have to believe in a dogma. You simply recognize that you are currently operating within them.
Which changes your whole approach to ethics.
It makes your actions and your ethics not a matter of trying to appease a divine command, but a matter of seeking functional coherence within the system you are part of.
Which leaves us with a final, slightly mind-bending thought to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive. We have established that time and nature are the absolute minimum conditions for reality to be intelligible. But if that's true, what happens to the very concept of possibility?
Oh, that's a great question.
Think about the future. Does a possibility, like what you are going to eat for dinner tomorrow, technically exist before time and nature actualize it into a real, measurable event?
Or is the very concept of the future just a conceptual shadow that nature casts when time moves forward?
Exactly. If existence is strictly defined as only what is currently structured and updated, then the future isn't a place we are traveling toward. It's a phase shift we are constantly actively forming right now.
It brings us right back to the beginning of our discussion. We all want the clean, static answer. We want to see the destination clearly. But the framework of quantum onlyism suggests that reality isn't a picture of a fixed destination. It's a real-time, inescapable scan of a continuous, eternal process.
The murky waters of metaphysics might never be perfectly clear for everyone, but quantum onlyism certainly provides a remarkably powerful, crystalline lens to see the currents.
Thank you.
We've stripped away the assumed substances, we found the underlying conditions, and we are left with the sheer, undeniable fact of being able to be, something to mull over until next time.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Listen up, Titan family. The Coliseum of Arguments is officially opening the vaults, and this is your chance to win a piece of league history. We're running a massive high-stakes t-shirt raffle, and these are not your average tees. We're talking an ultra-exclusive, limited edition, premium custom apparel that you can't buy anywhere else. Once they're gone forever. We're keeping the stakes high and the odds completely in your favor. Here's how it goes down. Tickets are only $2. The limit, $40 or 20 tickets per person to keep the playing field fair. The odds, we're picking a brand new winner for every 20 tickets sold. Think about the math. If you max out your 20 tickets, you are essentially guaranteeing a crowd milestone and forcing a new drawing. The more tickets moving, the more winners we crown back to back. Are you a $3.99 channel member? Then we've already got your back. As a thank you for holding down the foundation, every single $3.99 member is automatically getting one free ticket entered into the raffle. But don't just rely on that one ticket. Secure your stack, maximize your odds, and ensure your name gets called. These custom designs, from the legendary Debate or Die print to the official Titans Debate League emblems, are strictly limited edition. You don't want to be sitting in the chat watching everyone else flaunt their exclusive gear while you missed out over a $2 ticket. How to enter? Open up your Cash App. Send your entry to $Titans Debate League. Put your name/handle in the note so we know exactly who to crown. The clock is ticking, the tickets are moving, and the next 20 ticket milestone is closing fast. Lock your entries in now and claim your crown. Winners picked this Friday. Are you not entertained?
So if you break your arm, an x-ray shows the crack, right?
Right, yeah.
It's clean, it's visible, undeniable. The doctor points to a jagged white line on a glowing screen, and you both know exactly what went wrong.
Exactly. It's a physical object you can point to.
Yeah. But if you try to take an x-ray of reality itself, I mean, if you try to point an imaging machine at the absolute bottom of the universe to see what everything is built on, the machine just breaks down. You just get static.
Oh, complete static. Because you're asking the wrong kind of question at that point.
Right. And today we're taking a deep dive into a framework called quantum onlyism that claims to have finally found the bottom floor of reality. And spoiler alert to you listening, it is not a god. It's not a vibrating string of energy, and it's not a subatomic particle.
We are really stepping into territory today that fundamentally challenges how we even frame the question of existence.
Mhm.
Because, well, for thousands of years, whenever human beings have tried to figure out the foundation of
I frame the
reality,
question
we
different
have always looked for a thing.
for those who wanted
Exactly.
it
A
different.
noun. We want to be able
I
to
framed it
isolate the ultimate building block, put it under a microscope, or maybe put it on a metaphysical pedestal and just say, there it is. That is the magic object that built the universe.
Yeah, the prime mover, right.
But quantum onlyism, and specifically the foundational text we are looking at, known as Book 1, argues that this entire approach is a trap. It argues that looking for a first object is just logically doomed from the absolute start.
And I want to clarify right
Mm.
up front, we are approaching this material today as serious professional critics. We aren't here to, endorse this framework as gospel.
Definitely not.
Nor are we going to just dismiss it out of hand just because it challenges traditional scientific or theological narratives. Our mission here is to take its core logic, specifically something called the only argument, and subject it to the most rigorous stress tests we can manage.
Yeah,
Look,
we really need to see if this is genuinely a new way of understanding the universe, or if it's just a clever repackaging of old philosophical ideas.
That's what
Right,
they say.
because that
That's what they
happens
try
a
to tell you.
lot.
That's
And
what
we
they
need
try
to draw a very strict boundary around our discussion before we even get into the weeds here.
A huge boundary, yes.
The texts we're analyzing today, they operate exclusively in the philosophical lane. Quantum onlyism is not presenting itself as a rival to experimental physics or
None of that.
chemistry or
None of that.
neuroscience.
No, it's not offering a new mathematical model to replace quantum mechanics or general relativity. Instead, it's asking a structural question. It's trying to identify the inescapable conditions that must already be in place for physics or chemistry
For
to even be
everything to
intelligible in the first place.
It's like the difference between trying to discover a new type of star and asking what makes the concept of space possible at all.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's dig into the historical problem that this framework is trying to solve, because you mentioned earlier that we always look for a magic noun. And if we look at the heavyweights of historical metaphysics, they all play this game.
Well, they all do, every single one of them.
They all try to name the ultimate substance.
And the names change depending on the era, and whatever the intellectual fashion is at the time. Classical theology names the ultimate substance God.
Right.
Materialists name it matter, or maybe fundamental fields of energy. Idealists argue that the foundational substance is mind, or like a universal consciousness.
Or modern theorists saying reality is built on pure math
You're right.
or quantum information.
Exactly. But structurally, every single one of these answers is performing the exact same maneuver. They are positing a primary entity. They are stacking the universe on top of a single foundational object.
And the problem with stacking the universe on top of an object is that you immediately run into the regress problem.
The infinite regress,
Yes. Because the moment you hand me an ultimate object, I can just ask, well, what's it made of, or where did it come from?
Always.
If you tell me the universe is made of matter, I ask what matter is made of. You say atoms, I ask what atoms are made of. You say quarks, what are quarks made of? Strings.
It's the classic turtles all the way down scenario.
Exactly. You just keep endlessly falling down a staircase of smaller and smaller objects.
Or, in the case of theology, if you say God created the universe, the inescapable logical follow-up is asking what conditions gave rise to God? Who made God?
Which theologians hate.
They do, but infinite regress is the great destroyer of metaphysical systems. And quantum onlyism avoids this trap by just hitting pause on the search for a noun and asking a completely different question.
Okay, so what's the question?
It asks what conditions must already obtain for any proposed fundamental entity to exist, to persist, to act, to relate, or to even be intelligible to us at all.
Oh, okay. So it's stepping behind the curtain. Instead of looking for the ultimate chess piece, it's asking what the rules of the board must be for a game of chess to even happen.
That is the core of what the framework calls the method of conditions. It's a diagnostic tool that shifts the entire axis of philosophical inquiry.
How does it work practically?
Well, the method operates through a strict sequence. First, you take any proposed explanation for reality. Let's take string theory or, a divine creator.
Okay, second, you ask what specific conditions make that explanation structurally possible. So if you propose a divine creator who says, let there be light, what allows a creator to possess an identity?
Right.
What allows a creator to execute a sequence of events, like a thought or an action?
Then you apply the third step, which is recursive. You take the answer you just found, the entire exercise. You determine if the inquiry naturally terminates. But, and this is key, it doesn't terminate in a first object. It terminates in first conditions.
So it treats reality as a mechanism of underlying rules rather than a hierarchy of objects stacked on top of a magic base. If we think about the regress problem, the turtles all the way down, the method of conditions stops the infinite fall. Because once you hit the absolute fundamental rules that allow anything to exist at all, you can't ask what the rules are made of.
No, because rules aren't made of material. They are the parameters of the system.
Right. By hunting for conditions, the rules of the game that allow the game to be played, you abandon the search for a maker and instead map the inescapable parameters of intelligibility. You find the floor.
You find the absolute bottom.
Hold on, though.
Correct.
How is this any different from what Immanuel Kant was doing 300 years ago?
I was wondering when we bring up Kant.
I mean, this sounds suspiciously like his
Let me
transcendental
ask- can I ask-
argumentation. Kant looked at human experience and asked what conditions make human experience possible.
Mhm.
Right, he did.
Right.
And he concluded that it's just Kant wearing a modern quantum branded coat.
The shape of the argument is deeply Kantian.
No.
I will give
It's
you that. The transcendental move,
it's a transcendental
asking
argument.
what must be true for X to occur, is the same. But there is a massive fundamental divergence in the
Yeah.
target
We
and the
different.
scope of the claim.
Okay, break that down for me.
Kant's philosophy was epistemological. It was an investigation into the limits of human knowledge. He built this insurmountable wall between our minds and independent reality,
Yeah.
which he called the thing in itself.
Oh, right. The noumenal world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He essentially said, we can only ever know the conditions of our own mental software. We can never know what reality is actually like outside of our perception.
Meaning, like, if I wear rose tinted glasses my whole life, I can confidently say that everything looks pink, but I can't claim that the universe itself is actually pink. I'm just describing my glasses.
Yes. Kant
Sorry,
was
Kant.
describing human glasses.
Okay, so how does onlyism differ?
Quantum onlyism makes a radically bolder claim. It makes an ontological claim.
Right.
It argues that these fundamental conditions are not just the operating system of the human brain, they are the operating system of reality itself.
Would still require structure and sequence to operate.
Yeah.
Yes. The framework removes the human-centric focus entirely. It extends the transcendental method from a claim about how we perceive things to a hard claim about how existence functions at an objective level.
That is a massive leap. So if we accept that we can't find a magic first object and we have to hunt for these underlying rules, where do we even draw the boundary of the game?
We need a playing field.
Right. We can't identify the rules of reality if we don't know where reality starts and stops. And this framework starts by drawing the ultimate inescapable boundary line, which it calls the only axiom.
And the only axiom states, nothing exists outside existence.
Which, when you hear that out loud, it sounds almost painful in its obviousness.
It sounds like a joke.
It sounds like someone dramatically announcing that wet things are wet or tall buildings are tall. Nothing exists outside existence.
Yeah, it sounds like
Yeah.
a complete tautology.
So,
But the
it's not-
framework uses this seemingly obvious tautology to forge a very specific, aggressive definition.
yeah.
It defines existence, with a capital E, as the total ongoing reality within which all real states, relations, and beings obtain.
That's what
The central
exists.
claim there is that an entity cannot do anything unless it first exists.
It has to
Which
exist.
turns that obvious statement into a powerful philosophical scalpel.
Thank you.
It cuts away thousands of years of metaphysical baggage.
Thank you.
It really does.
Thank you.
Because the moment a theologian or a theoretical physicist claims that something outside of existence created the universe, they have introduced an operational contradiction.
They've broken their own
You
logic.
gotta do that to
Completely.
yourself.
If this proposed creator or mechanism actually exists, then it is by definition part of existence. It is
Yes.
inside the system.
And if it is
exists.
truly, genuinely outside of existence, well, then it doesn't exist.
All right.
And non-existent things cannot cause, create, or interact with reality.
Exactly. You can't be mugged by a non-existent thief, and the universe can't be built by a non-existent creator.
It's a completely closed loop. If it's real, it's inside the bubble.
This forces a radical mandatory shift in vocabulary.
Mhm.
The framework argues that the traditional concept of creation from nothing, what theologians call creatio ex nihilo, is logically unstable. You cannot use nothing as a starting point.
Because to
Interesting.
even talk about nothing isn't an empty room you can
I'm
build
sorry.
a universe
I didn't
in.
mean to interrupt.
Nothing is just a word we use when we run out of things to point at.
Therefore, quantum onlyism replaces the concept of creation with the concept of formation.
Yeah. That's
Let's
what,
really pull apart the mechanics of creation versus formation. Because colloquially, people use them interchangeably all the time.
Sure they do.
but structurally, they are entirely different mechanisms for how reality behaves.
Well, creation implies an external agent.
Right.
Someone standing outside the system, intervening into a void to produce a brand new object that had absolutely no prior precedent.
Like
Okay.
magic.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But
Right.
formation implies a phase shift within an already existing system. The text uses the analogy of water freezing into ice.
I love that analogy because the water doesn't get created into ice.
Uh-uh.
A wizard didn't wave a wand and summon an ice cube from the void. The ice formed under specific environmental conditions. The
Correct.
hydrogen and oxygen molecules were already there, they just reorganized. They shifted from a highly fluid, less structured state into a rigid, highly structured
That's
state.
what we see.
And quantum onlyism applies that exact thermodynamic concept to the origin of the universe itself.
Right.
The universe did not pop into being from an absolute void. It formed.
It shifted.
Yes, it shifted from an unobservable state of perfect equilibrium into an observable state of structured motion. What we colloquially refer to as the beginning, the Big Bang, wasn't start from zero.
It was a transition.
It was a transition from one state of existence to another. The base.
Definitional trick to avoid answering the hard questions.
The semantic escape hatch objection.
Right.
No.
Is existence functioning as a genuine explanatory floor here, or is this just a semantic sleight of hand? Like, I define the universe as everything, therefore I don't have to explain where everything came from.
Yeah, we don't do
It's a
that.
fair question. And the texts anticipate this skepticism through a process they call a fallacy audit.
Right.
It is crucial to understand that the framework is not treating existence as an object. It is treating existence as a bounding condition.
Okay, so what is the practical difference between an object and a bounding condition? For you listening, this is a really important distinction.
An object is a distinct item you can locate, measure, and point to within a space. A bounding condition is the rule that defines the geometry of the space itself.
Okay.
By stating that nothing exists outside existence, the framework is forcefully closing the system. It is demanding that any explanation of reality must rely entirely on internal mechanics.
That's the
You
only way
can't
we
use
gonna
an
do
emergency
this.
exit to explain how the building was built. You have to explain the building using the bricks and mortar already inside it.
Exactly. It clarifies the conditions under which existence is intelligible, rather than trying to answer where existence came from. Because the framework argues that the question, where did existence come from, is invalid. It's incoherent.
Why is it invalid?
Because the concept of coming from
Incorrect.
implies a point of origin, a sequence, and a location.
Right.
Sequence and location are properties that only exist inside the system of existence. You cannot apply the internal rules of the system to the system as a whole.
It's like asking what is north of no outside creator and no outside physics pushing in. What is actually powering the machine from the inside?
Because the static loose is just a dead universe.
Right, exactly. What drives the formation? This brings us to the core diagnostic breakthrough of the entire framework, the
Right.
twin pillars of reality.
Having established that we must look inside the closed system, the method of
You do.
conditions strips away all the proposed objects, all the atoms, all the energy fields, all the gods. And it isolates the two absolute, irreducible prerequisites for anything to be real or intelligible.
Father Time.
And the framework names these two
Mom,
fundamental conditions,
Daddy.
time and nature.
So
Mom,
we have to completely wipe our mental hard drives
Daddy.
regarding what those words normally mean.
Yes, absolutely.
Because in this framework, we are not talking about time and nature in the colloquial sense.
Let's start with time, which the text sometimes denotes mathematically as fati. Time is not a clock on your wall. It is not a calendar. Quantum onlyism defines time strictly as ordered update.
Ordered update. It is the condition of sequence.
Yeah.
It is change, duration, transition, and becoming. It is the inescapable condition of whenness.
Try
That's
to
what
picture a
time is.
reality without ordered update. It's impossible
That's
to even
what
conceptualize.
actual
Absolutely
time
nothing can
is.
happen.
Yeah.
A physical particle cannot move from point A to point B. A chemical reaction cannot occur. A thought cannot form in a brain. Causation itself, the idea that one thing leads to another, is entirely dependent on an ordered sequence.
Without time, you don't just have a frozen reality, you have an utterly unintelligible reality.
And the necessary counterweight to ordered update is the second pillar, nature, denoted as mona.
Mhm.
Again, we must abandon the image of forests and oceans and wildlife.
Right, no trees.
In this framework, nature is defined mathematically as constraint and form. It is identity. It is boundary, structure, pattern, and physical configuration.
Not
It is
just
the
the trees.
condition of whatness.
Each and
If
every
time is the engine,
individual
nature is the chassis. Without constraint, where the rest of the universe begins. Without nature, reality would lack
That's right.
any identifiable characteristics. It would be pure, unarticulated, blinding noise.
The absolute core assertion of quantum onlyism is binary. Without nature, nothing is anything. Without time, nothing happens.
To really see how revolutionary or perhaps how ancient this binary is, we should look at how humanity has wrestled with these two concepts historically.
Because this tension between change and structure is the oldest fight in philosophy.
It really is.
Oh, this
When we
one?
go back to ancient Greece, we see thinkers isolating these pillars, but failing to unite them. Take Parmenides.
Oh, yeah.
He argued that reality is ultimately
Well, I
static,
remember studying
unchanging, and singular. He believed that change, which is time, was essentially a perceptual illusion.
Parmenides was advocating for a reality of pure nature,
Yeah.
pure structure, pure form, without any ordered update. He believed that if something is real, it just is.
Right.
It cannot become something else because becoming implies that it was previously not that thing and you cannot derive something from nothing. It is a brilliant, airtight logic that results in a completely frozen, unlivable universe.
And directly across the philosophical ring was Heraclitus. He gave us the famous saying that you cannot step into the same river twice, because both the river and the person stepping into it are constantly changing.
He believed reality was constant flux, endless change, pure fire.
Heraclitus was advocating for a reality of pure time, pure ordered update with no permanent structure. He recognized that the universe is dynamic, but he failed to account for the persistent stability of form.
Yeah.
Right, because if everything is just pure flux, how do we even recognize a river as a river?
Aristotle comes along later and tries to mediate this dispute. He introduces the concepts of form and matter combined with motion.
Change to individual objects.
Yes, he kept his philosophy tied to nouns.
He looked at a specific tree or a specific animal and asked how it possessed form and how it underwent motion. Quantum onlyism zooms the camera all the way out.
Yeah.
It abstracts these concepts entirely away from individual objects
Mhm.
and identifies them as the universal, inseparable conditions of reality itself.
You can't have structure without sequence,
Okay.
and you can't have sequence without structure.
Let's ground this with a structural analogy. If you're trying to picture this binary interaction,
Never
think of
let
a
me
computer
talk.
system. Nature is the data structure. It is the architecture of the microchips, the hard-coded limitations of the hardware, and the static lines of code sitting on a hard drive.
It is the constraint.
Exactly. Time is the processor. It is the electrical current actually
Again.
executing that code sequentially, moving the system from one state to the next. You absolutely need both to have a functional, intelligible program.
If you possess only nature, just the code and the hardware constraints, but no processor executing it, you have a frozen screen, a dead machine. Nothing happens.
And if you just have time, a processor running wildly, electricity surging without any code or structural constraints to guide it, you just get a melted motherboard.
Pure noise.
Meaningless electrical noise. You need the union of both ordered update and structural constraint to get an operating system.
That analogy holds up really well, particularly when we examine how the texts connect this purely philosophical framework to the actual mechanics of physics. Specifically, the framework leans heavily into thermodynamics and the concept of entropy.
Oh, this is fascinating. But it does so in a way that profoundly reframes our usual understanding. Because usually we think of entropy as just decay.
Right, things falling apart.
The coffee getting cold, the car rusting, the universe slowly dying.
Yeah.
Traditional physics views entropy as the inexorable march toward disorder. But quantum onlyism, while not trying to replace the physical equations of thermodynamics, reframes the function of entropy philosophically. It views entropy as time exploring possibilities.
Entropy as exploration. That is a massive conceptual shift.
Think about it mechanically.
Got it.
Time, functioning as ordered update, constantly pushes the system into new configurations.
Right.
It is an engine of rotary resistance. It acts as the structural filter, stabilizing the specific configurations that are mathematically and physically viable.
Time proposes, nature disposes.
Yeah.
Time shakes the box of Lego bricks, constantly trying new combinations. Nature represents the actual shape of the interlocking studs on the bricks, which dictates that only certain combinations will actually snap together and
That's-
hold their shape.
That's what
Yes.
nature is.
Entropy is time pushing the system through phase space, proposing new arrangements. Nature dictates which arrangements can persist. Their continuous interaction is what produces the incredibly complex, stable, yet dynamic reality we observe.
They
Things-
are not merely complementary,
Use
they are fundamentally inseparable at the ground level of existence.
Yeah.
Which means we are finally ready to look at the central formal proof of the entire framework.
Okay.
We have defined existence as a closed system. We have defined time as ordered update and nature as constraint. Now we move from descriptive philosophy into hard symbolic logic.
We move to the only argument.
This is the critical juncture. The authors of the white papers do not simply want to suggest that time and nature are important. They attempt to prove logically that these two conditions are absolutely necessary and entirely sufficient for reality to exist.
Let's strip away the math first and present the only argument in plain language. It states, for any real state, event, physical law, or philosophical claim to be intelligible, it requires both ordered update, time, and constraint, nature.
Right.
Without nature, nothing is anything. Without time, nothing happens. Therefore, time and nature are the necessary and sufficient conditions of intelligible existence.
Right.
Now, we must examine the formal logic structure provided in the text. It uses basic propositional logic to lock this claim into place. Let E represent intelligible existence. Let T represent time, defined as ordered update. And let N represent nature, defined as constraint and form.
The logic flows through two premises. Premise 1, E implies the union of T and N, meaning if you have an intelligible reality, it absolutely must contain ordered update and constraint. You cannot have reality without them.
Premise 2 works in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
The union of T and N implies E, meaning if you have ordered update and constraint operating together, that alone is sufficient to produce an intelligible reality.
You don't need a wizard.
No wizard required. You do not need to add a magic spark, a supernatural ingredient, or an outside creator to make the system function.
Which leads to the inescapable
Just
conclusion
need
of
time
the
and
truth.
nature.
E is equivalent to T and N. In symbolic logic, this is written as E, then a double-headed arrow, then T.
Structural linchpin of the whole
Existence,
system. A
existence
biconditional means that the two sides of
if
the
and only
equation
if time
are
and nature.
logically identical at their absolute foundation.
Intelligible existence is the union of time and nature.
It's a statement of absolute equivalency. It means they are necessary, you absolutely must have them to have reality, and they are sufficient. You don't need a third foundational primitive to make reality work.
If you have ordered update and structural constraint, you have the complete minimal floor required for physical states to occur, for relations to hold, and for patterns to stabilize. Nothing else is required at the absolute ground level.
At this point, we need to actively push back.
Oh, absolutely.
The argument is incredibly tight, but it is making a massive sweeping claim about the totality of existence. We must deploy the tools of historical skepticism here.
Okay.
I completely agree. Let's hit
I
this
like
with a
skepticism.
classic counterproposal from the history of theology and philosophy.
Right.
What if the universe is not just a self-contained mechanism of time and nature? What if there is a timeless, formless mind that exists completely outside the universe, and this mind causes everything to exist?
The prime mover again.
Right. This is the baseline assumption of almost every major world religion and many idealist philosophers.
This specific objection is where quantum onlyism deploys its
let me
most
talk.
rigorous analytical weapon, the collapse of non-determinate existence test.
Wow, that is a mouthful.
It is, but it's brilliant. The framework does not just dismiss your timeless, formless mind out of hand, it takes your proposed entity and forces it through a strict operational audit.
Right.
Okay, let's run the
Yeah,
audit.
okay.
How does the timeless, formless mind fail?
The audit
Well-
begins by asking about identity. Does this proposed mind or creator have an identity distinct from what it creates? If the creator is distinct, then the creator possesses a boundary. It has an identity. It has a distinction separating what it is from what it is not.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Boundary, identity, and distinction are the very definitions of nature. They are constraint and form. Therefore, by claiming the creator is distinct from the creation, you are admitting that your proposed entity relies on the condition of nature to be intelligible.
Right.
Your formless mind secretly requires form to even be discussed.
Wow. Okay, so the formless part collapses. But what about the timeless part? What if this distinct entity exists outside of time?
The audit then interrogates action. Does this mind act? Does it plan? Does it cause the universe to form? Does it reveal knowledge or interact with reality?
Yes, a creator creates. Creation is an action. A mind thinks. Thinking is an action.
Action, causation, and thought inherently require a before and after. They require a sequence. A cause must precede an effect either chronologically in physical time or logically in a sequence of events.
And sequence is time.
Exactly. Sequence, process, and update are the very definitions of time. Therefore, to claim that a timeless mind causes something or thinks something is to smuggle time directly into your explanation.
Just try to actually visualize what a thought looks like without time. Try to think of the word hello without a beginning, middle, and end. You can't. The H has to come before the O.
Right.
A thought is a process. It takes time. So the opponent claims they have an entity that transcends time and nature.
Yeah.
But the moment they try to describe what this entity is or what it does, they are forced to use the vocabulary of structure, which is nature, and sequence, which is time.
Right.
They are smuggling the very conditions they claim to deny. They are quietly borrowing from the bank of time and nature to fund their concept of a timeless, formless creator.
That lying on the structural grammar of time and nature.
That's very tight.
But this elegance actually demands that we probe deeper. Because an argument can be formally valid. I mean, the logic can check out on a whiteboard and still fall prey to classic logical fallacies.
Right.
This is where we must enter the skeptic's crucible. The white papers themselves provide a fallacy audit, which demonstrates a self-awareness of its own structural risks. But as independent critics, we must verify the architecture ourselves.
Right.
We have to aggressively stress test this framework.
Let's run it through the heavy hitters of logical fallacies.
You ready?
Fallacy number 1, begging the question.
The rubric.
Circular
Run it through the
reasoning.
rubric.
Does this framework just assume its conclusion and its premises?
That's the danger with tautologies, yeah.
Right. Does it just arbitrarily define existence as time and nature, and then proudly announce that it has proved existence is time and nature?
No.
A critical eye looks closely at how the framework defends against this. It points to its derivation method. It does not merely stipulate or declare that time and nature are the foundational answer. Instead, it derives them from the strict requirements of intelligibility itself. It issues a challenge. Try to make any meaningful, intelligible claim about reality without using sequence or distinction.
You can't.
Because you cannot meet that challenge, the conditions are proven necessary by the impossibility of their denial. It is a transcendental proof, not a circular definition.
It's like proving the existence of air by asking someone to hold their breath while they try to argue against it.
Exactly. The act of arguing proves the premise.
Okay, fallacy number 2, and this is the one I suspect a hard-nosed theoretical physicist would throw at it: semantic repackaging.
Oh, this is a big one.
Philosophical word for physics, and time just a spooky word for entropy and causality. Why do we need quantum onlyism when we already have the standard model of particle physics?
This
Challenge
objection
you.
requires us to distinguish carefully between a description and a condition. Physics and mathematics are incredibly precise tools that describe the behavior of the universe.
I
They
agree.
measure the rate of change. They calculate the exact mass of a particle.
Right, they tell us what is happening.
But quantum onlyism claims to name the underlying philosophical functions that make those physical measurements possible in the first place.
Science assumes the conditions exist so it can do the math.
Right.
Philosophy attempts to identify why the math works at all.
Precisely. You can change the vocabulary. You can call them ordered, update, and constraint instead of time and nature, or you can call them X and Y, but you cannot dispense with the functions themselves.
You
The
cannot
label doesn't
use
matter,
those
the
functions.
function does.
If we
Correct.
use a physical analogy, physics is the science of measuring the exact flow rate, depth, and turbulence of a river. Quantum onlyism is the attempt to define the philosophical concept of fluid dynamics that makes a river possible.
That makes a lot of sense. Fallacy number 3, special pleading. This is a massive trap in traditional theology.
Huge trap.
The argument usually goes, everything in the universe needs a cause, therefore there must be a first cause.
Mhm.
But that first cause, God, doesn't need a cause. It changes the rules at the very end to save the argument.
Right.
Does quantum onlyism do the same thing? Does it say everything is subject to structural rules except time and nature?
It avoids
No,
special
but-
pleading because time and nature are not presented as objects, agents, or deities sitting outside the system,
Right.
immune to its rules. They're not exceptions to the system, they are the baseline rules of the system.
They are the geometry of the game board?
Exactly. They are the conditions of intelligibility, not magical entities granted diplomatic immunity from logic.
If we zoom out from the strict logic and look at the broader historical landscape, I can't help but think of Baruch Spinoza in the 17th century.
And you would.
Spinoza famously coined the phrase deus of natura, God or nature.
Right.
He argued that God and the universe are the exact same.
Spinoza is probably the most accurate historical
Why you
touchstone.
interrupt that like that?
Spinoza merged God and nature into a single infinite substance that possesses infinite attributes. Quantum onlyism shares Spinoza's absolute rejection of an external transcendent creator.
Yeah, I do.
However, onlyism's genuine innovation seems to be its strict minimalist reduction to a binary operational floor.
Yeah, no.
Spinoza had one monolithic substance. Onlyism splits the atom of existence into two inseparable but distinct functions.
Philosophy models.
The
Well,
hidden
they do.
teleology.
Exactly. If you look at a process philosopher like Alfred North Whitehead in the 20th century, he saw reality as a process of becoming, but he still viewed God as a conceptual entity guiding that process toward a specific aesthetic or moral harmony. There was a teleology, a purpose, or end goal.
Onlysm removes the purpose. It treats the floor of reality as purely operational, completely devoid of any overarching intentionality, teleology, or cosmic blueprint. It's a mechanism, not a mind.
Which brings us to the ultimate human question. If this framework is philosophically sound, if the floor of reality is a binary mechanism of time and nature, rather than an intentional creator, what are the actual implications?
It fundamentally shifts the center of gravity of human existence. It shifts the entire burden of our worldview from trying to appease an outside architect to understanding our deep responsibility within a closed, self-balancing system.
It's heavy responsibility.
It is. If the universe isn't a play written by a playwright who is going to judge our performance at the end, but is instead a continuously updating system of constraints and physical consequences, then our actions aren't judged by a king. They are processed by a mechanism.
That shift carries profound ethical implications. Even if the framework strictly remains in the lane of metaphysics, it moves the conceptual basis of human action from a system of obedience and divine command to a system of structural coherence.
Coherence, I like that word.
In a universe governed solely by time and nature, you do not strive for coherence to please a deity. You align with coherence to maintain the stability of the systemic environment you are inextricably embedded in.
It's the difference between following the speed limit because you're afraid of getting a ticket from a cosmic police officer and following the speed limit because you understand the physics of a car crash.
That is exactly the difference.
So, looking at the entire framework, from the method of conditions to the formal logic of the only argument, where do you see this philosophical architecture standing strongest, and where does it leave the door open for further grilling?
The framework is undeniably strongest in its logical minimalism and its aggressive refusal to allow smuggled assumptions.
The collapse test.
Yes, the collapse of non-determinate existence test is a formidable, almost unanswerable weapon against sloppy metaphysical thinking. By forcing opponents to operationally define their terms, it clears away centuries of theological and philosophical fog. Its unified methodology, insisting that absolutely everything must be explained from within the closed boundaries of existence, is intellectually rigorous and highly coherent.
But no system is perfect. Where is the unresolved tension?
The lingering philosophical tension is whether establishing how existence is intelligible adequately answers why the conditions of time and nature exist in the first place.
The ultimate why.
Right. The framework brilliantly maps the operational floor, proving logically that order and structure are necessary for reality to function.
Thank you.
But are these dual conditions simply the ultimate brute facts of reality?
Do we just have to accept that time and nature just are without ever knowing why there is something?
You don't have
other
to
than
just
nothing?
accept
The
any.
framework counters that asking why implies a prior cause, which is an invalid question outside the boundaries of time. It argues the question itself is broken.
But the human mind's desire to ask why remains a stubborn, persistent itch.
It does. A purely operational answer, no matter how logically flawless, may not fully scratch the existential itch of human consciousness.
That is the ultimate existential tension. And I think it's a perfect place to pull everything together. We have taken a massive journey down to the floor of reality today for this deep dive.
We really have.
We started by exploring the method of conditions, shifting our philosophical focus from looking for a foundational object, the magic noun, to identifying the foundational rules.
Right, shifting the whole paradigm.
We examined the only axiom defining existence as a completely closed loop of formation, replacing the magical concept of creation from nothing. We broke down the twin pillars of reality, time as ordered update, and nature as structural constraint, acting as an engine of entropy and form.
The processor in the code.
Exactly. Finally, we walked through the formal logic of the only argument, stress testing it against classic fallacies and using it to collapse the concept of a timeless creator.
It has been a dense, demanding excavation of the very roots of intelligibility.
And as always, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. A concept that builds on the strict logic we've discussed, but stretches it just a bit further into the unknown.
If time and nature are the absolute, inescapable conditions for any thought, any claim, or any physical reality to be intelligible to us.
Does that mean the universe is to formulate a single word, a single mathematical symbol, or a single coherent thought about it without dragging it violently back into the confines of order and structure?
Are we finally seeing the true, absolute limits of reality?
Or are we just staring at the limits of our own language? When we look for the ultimate X-ray of the universe, are we seeing the bones of reality or just the lens of the machine we are looking through? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep
Well,
questioning the conditions of your own reality.
yeah, we're still learning things about existence. So we shall continue to search. And I want y'all to know something else that's within existence right now.
What happens when a Christian preacher's son starts asking questions nobody wants answered? What if faith and science were never supposed to be enemies? This isn't another religious book, and it's not another angry attack on belief. This is a wake-up call. The Agnostic Guide to Faith, Science, and Sanity by A1 Richardson takes you on a mind-bending journey through scripture, psychology, science, energy, cause and effect, vibration, polarity, rhythm, and the universal law shaping your everyday life. Why do people sabotage themselves and blame God? Why do we ignore patterns then act shocked by consequences? Why are so many trapped doing what we call crazy work? This book challenges everything you thought you knew about spirituality, reality, and yourself. No fake certainty, no church cliches, no blind obedience. Just raw honesty, deep reflection, and practical wisdom for people caught between the pulpit, the laboratory, and real life. Whether you're deconstructing your faith, spiritually curious, tired of shallow answers, or searching for sanity in a chaotic world, this book was written for you. Read it with an open mind, read it with courage, read it before life forces you to learn the hard way. The Agnostic Guide to Faith, Science, and Sanity. Stop doing crazy work and wake up to the patterns shaping your life now.
Yeah, man. I want to thank y'all for joining me this morning. We'll be back tomorrow with some man's A1 in here. But you know, before I go, I got to leave y'all with at least one of them Only originals. Let me see what I got loaded up today. This one, my favorite.
The wool removed. You wolves.
We will be talking about divine mechanics more shortly. Just making sure everybody got the baseline of quantum onlyism down so they'll know exactly what it's saying. Or they'll be able to see the difference in my philosophical views and other philosophical views, the questions that I form. They'll get to see the what's different about it. I don't want to brag like they were saying how brilliant it was and stuff, but just something else to look at. Anybody want to ever got anything they want to argue about Father Time and Mother Nature and why I use those words in any of that? Besides my book and the base argument that you got, I got other white papers and things, logical proofs. But if you got questions, whenever we have these panels and things, should step up. We can definitely talk about it. See if we can't figure out something to discourse about. But yeah, man, that's just a little start of quantum onlyism basics. Some critiques from some professionals, AIs.
Father Time and Mother Nature dancing endlessly. Open both eyes when you finally see. You get two eyes, but only one vision of reality. More love again. I guess I'll tell you about the secret to existence again. Feathers on me, stars above. Everything alive because of love. The only time I fell in love, I was standing on the ledge. If I would've knew the ledge, I might've moved different instead. Thought I found forever in somebody else's head, but she just wanted friendship while I was thinking marriage bed. So here I go again, talking about love again, trying to explain existence through the pain again, trying to hold beauty still. The time don't ever stand. That's when Father Time whispers, son, that's just a plan. And Mother Nature touched my shoulder, said nothing blooms forever, but everything returns eventually. That's when I finally understood why heartbreak make us wiser, why loneliness get deeper when your thoughts become advisors. People fear the dark, but the stars only shine there. Flowers drink the sunlight, but roots grow where the night live. That's why I stopped fearing pain and started reading signs there. Every scar another map showing me where life is. Time and nature had a face, I don't think they look old. Probably young forever, with eternal souls. Little kids with galaxies inside their pupils glowing gold, running through the universe, laughing while creation unfolds. Not gods on thrones, not witches casting spells, just the endless interaction that make existence itself. One gate sequence, one gate shape, and together they became every heartbeat, every ocean, every memory, every name. Beauty and the beast, light and dark, love and grief, that's the balance. People call it contradiction, but I call it understanding. Cause I love time, cause time gave me moments. And I love nature, cause nature let me hold it. That's why I cherish every second, even broken ones too. Cause without the hurt and healing, I would never become forever be for the time and Mother Nature dancing endlessly. Forever be Father Time and Mother Nature dancing endlessly. Open both eyes and if money see, you get two eyes, but only one vision of reality. I guess I'll tell you about the topic of existence again. Feathers on me, stars above, everything alive because of love. I'm on fire, I'm on. This time I understand it.
Y'all got that new album too. Only got that new album coming out, Bird dropping. Look out for it.
The wool removed, your wounds I see.
Bird dropping.
Step up in
Coming
the
soon.
Coliseum, looking like a
Like
boss.
a boss.
If you don't tip your hat tight, it's gone. Have to take it off. I let you cap for a minute. Now I'm taking off. I want the crown, and when I get it, I won't take it off. Step up in the Coliseum, looking like a boss. If you don't tip your hat tight, it's gone. Have to take it off. I let you cap for a minute. Now I'm taking off. I want the crown, and when I get it, I won't take it off. Hey, that's right, I'm here now. Let's get it clear now. Go hard in the paint. I am so Bill Lambert now. Built for the pressure, I am who they ain't. Real ones around me, that's why I'm still here. Stayed through the struggle, never moved in fear. Going up in this game, don't get pumped when I post up. Too many glass-made rappers. Somebody get them closer. Back in my lane and I'm back back in control. Too hot for the cold, cause too focused to fold. Old school mentality, soldier to the core. Never need a validation, kick open the door. Claim you want the smoke, then come and get you some. Talking like a giant till the giant really come. Heavyweight status, rap game ran through. They know who the one is, they could tell them they the man too. Shout out to the haters. Y'all know who be killing.
They know that I'm the one. They know that that's A1. They can say that they the man too.
Step up in the Coliseum, looking like a boss. If you don't tip your head, we gon' have to take it off. I let you cap for a minute. Now I'm taking off. I want the crown, and when I get it, I won't take it off. Yeah. We all need it, so get with it. Act different, lose position. That's the cost of business. Squad too deep. Your crew too weak. Silverback in the building, y'all too scared to compete. Folk grown wolves and y'all sheep in disguise. Talk tough online, but get quiet out of eye. Tadpole tucking water way too deep. Bright injection reputation cannot keep. I'm contagious, you blind. You can't see on the grind all night while you getting beauty sleep. Aggressive with the hustle every day on a mission. Steady chasing paper, ain't no time for complaining. The way I run it down, you swear I was racing. Track star focus, every move calculated. Shout out to the haters. Y'all know who be killing it. What's up with your face? Y'all know who the realest is. Step up in the Coliseum, looking like a boss. If you don't tip your head, Titans gon' have to take it off. I'll let you cap for a minute. Now I'm taking off. I want the crown, and when I get it, I won't take it off. Step up in the Coliseum, looking like a boss. If you don't tip your head, Titans gon' have to take it off. I'll let you cap for a minute. Now I'm taking off. I want the crown, and when I get it, I won't take it off.
This bird drop is coming soon. See if anybody gonna blow.
Who you talking to? Who said what? Who told who? Who built the frame that you looking through? Who you talking to? Talking timeless while you speaking in sequence too. If it ain't coherent, it collapse on cue. Who you talking to? Who said that? Who told you existence started? Run that back. Every worldview crack where the pressure at. Who you talking to? Who you talking to? Who said what? Who taught who? Who built the frame that you're looking through? Who you talking to? Talking timeless while you speaking in sequence too. If it ain't coherent, it collapse on cue. Who you talking to? Who said that? Who told you existence started? Run that back. Every worldview crack where the pressure at. Yeah. Who you talking to? Every line of treasure you only find in the mind, my mind. And you know I work in the mines. I don't charge a dime for you to stay out of mine. 2 times, we on time. Every line got another line, hiding behind the line. You hearing bars, I'm hearing structure and design. You hear a punchline, I hear ontology, a line. Who said reality started? Talking outside existence while existing to argue. Smuggling sequence in your sentence unconsciously. And call it timeless when I ask what the process be. Who you talking about? Half these worldviews fall when you walk them out. Everybody got answers till you chalk it out. Then coherence disappear when you map it out. I studied Heraclitus flowing rivers in motion. Parmenides froze it, I can see both in the ocean. Can't build a frame, but the frame still folded. Trying to define a world while the mind still holding it. Aristotle looking for causes and categories. Nietzsche killed guys, but couldn't kill reality. Heidegger staring into being and anxiety. I'm just asking what makes existence intelligibly. Who you talking to? Talking timeless while you speaking in sequence too. If it ain't coherent, it collapse on cue. Who you talking to? Who said what? Who built the worldview that you standing on? Everybody sounding deep to the ladder gone, and they looking real nervous when the pattern drawn. I slept these haters in they face with this one. Wait, I missed one. 2 times, we on time. Every line of gem they only find in the mind, my mind. You know I work in the mines, digging through minds while I'm digging through mine. Blue collar, philosopher, coffee cup thinker, still plotting possible worlds while the clock getting thinner. Whole room talking loud, I just watch and consider, cause the loudest in the room usually know the least in it. Who taught you that? Who said existence got a border where the proof at? Who talking outside reality and still attached? Using logic from existence just to move back. That's incoherent. I ain't even gotta raise my tone. I just let the contradiction sit there on its own. People wanna skip structure just to chase the throne. To the worldview collapse and they standing there alone. They want a war record. I gave them world pressure. Every verse another hidden room in the architecture. Every line another layer underneath the texture. You hear rhythm, I hear systems trying to fit together, and I ain't culturally inappropriate, intellectually inappropriate. I'm coherently inappropriate, yeah. You hate the conclusion, but the structure still hold. That's why the room get quiet when the logic unfolds. Who you talking to? Talking time, that's why you speaking in sequence too. If it ain't coherent, it collapse on cue. Who you talking to? Who said that? Who taught you existence started? Run that back. Every worldview crack where the pressure at. Who you talking to? OLEE on a late night broadcast. Hourglass eye, watching timelines cross paths. Earth in the other eye, both sides balance. Nature and time, that's the code in the canvas. No wings, still. OWL, only world logic. OLEE, only logical explanation of existence. Know the ledge. Philosophy. I'm messing around and catch a case with this one. Make 'em wanna party in outer space with this one. We slap these haters in their face with this one. Wait, I missed one. 2 times we on time. Every line of treasure you only find in my mind. And you know I work in the mines. I don't charge a dime for you to stay out of mind. Yeah, they fear as soon as they hear it. Smart minds salute it, the weak minds fear it. Like Aristotle, I question coherence through the eyes of a thinker. Truth become appearance. Only answers come from the questions you form with time and nature. Every question transformed. It's the mecca for the minds that was built to explore. Bird droppings on the way, not a game getting stormed. Yeah. OWL on the wall, OLEE in position. Test every claim, then I check the condition. If it don't hold coherence, it don't earn recognition. That's why debate opponents keep socially distancing. See, they don't really want pressure. They just wanna applause till somebody asks questions, then the room get paused. I built this from the ground, y'all just copying saws. Different type of animal, different type of boss. Can it be understood? Can it move without contradiction? Can the mind update when it finally see the friction? Yeah, I mess around and catch a case with this one. Make 'em wanna party in outer space with this one. We slap these haters in their face with this one. Wait, I missed one. 2 times we on time. Every line of treasure you only find in my mind. And you know I work in the mines. I don't charge a dime for you to stay out of mind. Yeah, the world removed its wolves out I see. No fur, no scales, it's feathers on me. I'm more 5T, Fadi Mona, I'm more. Was Christian once, but I'm trapped no more. It's like trying to fly with an angel wing. That's exactly why the jailbird sing. I flew to the top, left proof on things. Bird crumbs ain't enough when your appetite king. Mental worth, I done filled up the bank. You offer incoherent, so thanks. No thanks, no thanks. Keep your mental cranes like a form thoughts well. Still waiting on answers for Yahweh and El. And Satan too, if we telling the story. Why blame a devil for what human choosing poorly? I move with my mind, I don't feel what's unseen. No ghost in the dark, get to hijack me. No copy, no paste, you can't get my style. Heart on my sleeve, still walk with a smile. Judge me by my past, take a look at me now. I ain't doing this for me, trying to make my mama proud. Quantum only isn't true, yeah, we bringing it out. While y'all watching me, better watch the crowd. Yeah, I'm from Oklahoma. Know I turn the crack into a feast, and I also know the ratchet turn the actor to a priest. Cold hard world, but it's colder in the streets. Money on my mind, barely ever get to sleep. Yeah, dreams right there, still feel out of reach. Lights up ahead, I just want a little piece. Still student of the game, though I'm qualified to teach. Learn lessons every day, so I evolve every week. That's philosopher sense. Never mind, let's chill. I just know the difference between truth and skill. Between fake deep talk and the money bill. Between people that repeat and the ones that reveal. I'm mess around and catch a case with this one. Make a wanna party in outer space with this one. We slap these haters in their face with this one. Wait, I missed one. 2 times we on time. Every line of treasure you only find in my mind. And you know I work in the mines. I don't charge a dime for you to stay out of mind. Philosophy. O-W-L-O-L-E-E. Know the ledge.
Yeah, different type of animal. Now everybody better listen up. Different type. Now everybody better listen up. For my people in the struggle who never gave a what, even when life tried to press you down. Turn your frown to a smile. I make style just to lift you up. I'm a different type of animal. Wait, different type of animal. 2 to succeed, easy to see. I'm a different type of animal. Different type of animal. No fur, no scale, just feathers on me. I'm a different type of animal. Fly, yeah. Steady hustling, steady grinding. Getting money every time I put my time in. When they ask what I got up under my sleeve, they never gon' believe when I tell them it's all timing. Time. Everybody want a real life attitude. Incoherent, now they mad at you. Some people can't get it, now they laugh at you. Till they see the glow up, now they copying the altitude. I never was the type it was handed to. Had to put it together like mechanics do. Now you see I got the tools to succeed. Different mindset, different breed, different view. Every time I play a breed. Quantum thoughts, I evolve every week. Young Al, been wild since a young child. Still fresh to the death, no funeral style. How could you walk in my shoes? We run the town. Big shoes to fill. Never been a clown. I'm a different type of animal. Wait, different type of animal. 2 to succeed, easy to see. I'm a different type of animal. Different type of animal. No fur, no scale, just feathers on me. I'm a different type of animal. Talking about the block I've been around. Fighting through the hard times till it's spin around. Game tight, move smooth, never hear sound. Big pressure every time we hit the town. Couldn't touch me with a yardstick. Running through the paper on that backyard business. Chasing dreams, chasing cream to the team. Rich 5'8", but I'm standing on that stand tall mindset. See these monkeys trying to pull me from the tree. Yeah, they pulled me down before that just turned me to a beast. So I hopped into the streets, showed the hungry how to eat. Oklahoma on my back, now I'm bringing pressure to the beat. Cold hard world, colder in the streets. Money on my mind, barely get to sleep. Dreams feel close, still feel out of reach. Lights up ahead, I just want a little piece. Still a student of the game, don't qualify to teach. Learn lessons every day, so I evolve every week. I'm not an animal, life just got wild. So I did what I had to do, the other routes was fine. No copy, no taste, you can't get my style. Heart on my sleeve, still walk with a smile. Judging me by my past, take a look at me now. I ain't doing this for me, I just wanna make my mama proud. Quantum Onlysm truth, yeah, we bringing it out while y'all watching me. Better watch the crowd. Different type of animal. Wait, different type of animal. Two to succeed, easy to see. I'm a different type of animal. Different type of animal. No fur, no scales, just feathers on me. Different type of animal. Different type of animal. Different type of animal. Ooh. Yeah, feathers on me. Fly. Feathers on me. Fly. The wool removed, this wool's I see. No fur, no scales, it's feathers on me. The wool removed, this wool's I see. Different place, out of space, ain't no catching me. The wool removed, this wool's I see. No fur, no scales, it's feathers on me. Who you talking about? Whole squad floating when we walking out. Feathers, bro. In my mind is treasures, bro. Homie, that's the name on my mind because we make dough. And we run this thing so they move when we say so. Click full of soldiers plus we moving with halo. My nephew got the sauce, this the better than mayo. Why I stay the same, I just build like Legos. Tryna shake the game till it thick, that's like Play-Doh. Ice cold smooth cat with a milkshake flow. You say she a bad one, I call her a bimbo. People disrespect and get it poppin' like a pimple. Skinny dude, but my presence wider than a hippo. Why y'all call them challenges, these thoughts are simple. Docked at the game, watch a player operate. Bringing major pressure to these people cooperate. But we not the same, feel like I'm from outer space. Why you in my lane, I'm moving at a different pace. Black out like my dude pace. Stay smooth like my dude chase. Hot but I'm cold, y'all still, y'all been late. Rest of this rap thing, you should probably say sensei. The wool removed, this wool's I see. No fur, no scales, it's feathers on me. Feathers on me, feathers on me, feathers on me. The wool removed, this wool's I see. Different place, out of space, ain't no catching me. Who said what? Talking like you know the answer, but you started late. Too late. Feather fall. Bounce when the bass collide. Hey, I'm a thoroughbred winner and you been a fake. You just a TV, then into a dinner play. Messing with this top shot, you already knew your fate. Grown folk businesses, so you already knew your place. Feeling paid in full, feeling like a dude ace. People getting out of line and they're getting body chased. Cause when I make a move, so I never catch a case. Baby, I can make it flood, these other precipitate. Ain't no applications to the squad, we initiate. They just wanna be around, trying hard to imitate. You fuck chimpanzees and I've been in A. Running back, vision, see the whole attendant trade. Talking like you know the answer, but you started late. Who taught you the game? Who you walking with a broken state? I'm shaking worlds in my mind like it's roller skate. One man doing everything while you overthink. Jack of all trades, still better than your one lane. Break the beat, what the bars, bit the whole thing. Feathers on me, now the whole club know the name. OLE, different type of heart in the game. Yeah, different pace, different mind, different grind, different time. Feather fly. The wool removed, now I finally see the sign. The wool removed, now I finally see the sign. The wool removed, this wool's I see. No fur, no scales, it's feathers on me. Feathers on me, feathers on me, feathers on me, feathers on me. The wool removed, this wool's I see. Different place, out of space, ain't no catching me. What you talking about? Whole club moving when we walking out. Oh, feathers on me, feathers on me, feathers on me, feathers on me.
let's pause the noise for a second, because if you're still here right now, you're already different. Not everyone gets this. Not everyone understands real debate, real scholarship, real intellectual smoke. But you do. This is Coliseum of Arguments. This is Titans Debate League. And what happens here doesn't survive on algorithms. It survives on the people who believe in it. When you support through Cash App, you're not just donating. You're fueling the arena. You're the reason we can bring in high-level guests. You're the reason we keep unbiased judges. You're the reason these debates stay sharp, fair, and uncompromised. This platform is built by thinkers, sustained by supporters, protected by the ones who know value when they see it. If this show has ever sharpened your mind, has ever entertained you, or has ever challenged what you thought you knew, then Cash App is how you say, keep this going. Not everyone contributes, but the ones who do, they're part of what makes this real. Coliseum of Arguments, Titans Debate League, powered by the people who get it.
My heart is bleeding in a pool of blood, I'm drowning. Yeah, my heart is bleeding in a pool of blood, I'm drowning. I look in the mirror now.